over the years, our dreams, they get beat out of us. And then the typical society tells you, but you need a job, you need to go to uni, you need to do these things.
Yeah.
It beats the dreams out of us. Before you know it, you go down a road that you don't actually really want to do.
Well, welcome everyone to another Words of Rizdom podcast. I want to first of all say thank you very much because we've just hit a milestone of 4,000 subscribers. And though it may not seem like a lot, it's growing. It still means a lot, you know, and all the feedback that we've been getting. And to celebrate really such a milestone, we didn't really plan it, but it's just so happened to land on it. Today's guest, an absolute pleasure to have with us today. And I'll just throw it straight over. We're here with the Falcon founder. And really just an overall amazing person from what I've observed for many years, to be fair. Mark, welcome.
Well, firstly, thank you for joining, having me on the podcast, and the introduction was amazing. So it's been a pleasure. When you reached out to me, I was like straight away, I want to jump on this, and I'm excited to get into it and drop the value.
Definitely. And I'm sure it probably feels a little bit different because it's normally probably your platform or your video that you're probably putting together. And
that's the interesting part. I'm normally the one doing the interviewing, so straight away it was strange sitting in the opposite seat.
Thanks. You probably felt like welcoming the video yourself.
Exactly.
You know?
I nearly switched into the other mode.
Yeah. No, it's natural. And that's what I loved about it. I felt very humble because I haven't seen you kind of do other podcasts or other content just yet. But I feel like you're definitely someone who should be out there more, should be, in different circles and in more people's view, in my opinion. But tell us a bit about yourself, because my audience might not know about you. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who do. But tell us a bit about your journey and what you do and how you've gotten to where you are now.
Well, it's been an interesting journey because I started in 2008, so it's been a long period of time.
Yeah.
And talk of recession now, it's literally when I started. So you imagine you see the crash, that was when I started learning how to trade. It was stocks originally though.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so stocks. And at that point, I didn't know really much about foreign exchange, commodities, options, futures. It was just mainly just stocks.
Okay.
So that was after I was made redundant. So just to paint the picture, I'm 17 years old, nearly turning 18. I'm studying to be an engineer. I'm going to college one day a week. I've got the apprentice set up.
Yeah.
I want to study to be like a bridge engineer. Right, I'm involved in this big organization, it's a big company, and then they just got rid of all of the staff pretty much, like 95% of the people, apart from like the main managers, would move on to like the London branches, etc. So I hit a point where I thought, this is a horrible feeling because you emotionally invest into this idea of this is what I want to become, this is what I want to do, coming from a family background where certificate, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, really matters. That was like a huge thing for me. So after being made redundant, the feeling, and I'm so grateful for that experience because I never forget the principal engineer that was walking out of the office with a box with his hands with his belongings.
Yeah.
He's about 55 years old, close to retirement, very respected. And I was like, Michael, what are you going to do? It's Michael Mason at the time, right, his name. And I was like, Michael, what are you going to do? And he just said, who's going to employ a 55-year-old? And that stuck with me massively. And I just thought, to look at the fear in his eyes as to what am I going to do? Because what am I going to just apply for a role? And then that sparked something in me of, what if I get to 40 and this happens to me? What if it's 45? I don't want to be in that position again. So I was almost fearful of ever going back into engineering, architecture, which was what was being pressured from a family perspective. I was like, no, I can't do this. I have to do something different. So then with all the savings I had, I found out about these courses in London. It was like the 2-day courses, very early on when that started. So this industry is very, early stages at that point.
Yeah.
So I went to London, a few free seminars, got hooked on this idea of, being financially free, trading full time, all of the stuff that you see online. And then I just committed. I just went for it. I had about 5K savings, paid like 3K for the course. I had some coaching on top of that as well, come to about 5K. And I just went all in. And that's literally how it started. So... yeah.
Well, way to begin. What a year. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that. What a year to choose out of everything. Because the interesting thing is, I'm sure, to be fair to you, when we have these financial crashes, yes, it increases volatility and increases maybe even opportunity that people can sort of pivot to use as marketing. This is a time to get involved, I can imagine. And back then it wasn't really online based, was it? It was more, as you say, seminars and in person. And what was that like kind of coming across it? How did you come across it maybe just being in London at the time, or?
Yeah, it was just through friends. They just said, look, there's these seminars going on. They're usually in like things like Hilton hotels.
Yes.
So I go and check it out. I was like, fine, I'll do it. I'll go. So I went with a friend. We had a look around, went to a couple of them.
Yeah.
And it was very different age demographic. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So no one is my age there. Remember, I'm just turning 18. No one's 18. Everyone's 45, 50.
Yes.
And it was a combination of, you network, you talk to people. What do you do for work? I am an estate agent, for example, or I work in recruitment, or I've got this little business. It was people approaching their retirement age, realizing pension's not going to cut it. I now need to make more money. So it's very appealing, this idea of being an investor, trader, whether it's in foreign currency, commodities, or stocks. So that was interesting because the whole demographic has changed. That's what I saw.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah, you're completely right, because we observe the industry now, and as you say, like the demographic we're seeing is the teenage. A lot of it is I wish a lot of people say it to me even, and sometimes I even guilty of thinking it myself, of I wish I knew earlier, I wish I was 15, 16 and getting involved in this. But when I think as well, like mindset wise, was that my mindset would have at 15 would have been ready for something, a task such as trading. And would you say though, like observing that principal engineer, was it a point of sort of having that empowerment in your own hands rather than being able to work, say, 2 decades and someone just telling you, that's it, you're finished?
Yeah, I think it was that. I think it was mainly the fear drove me to just never wanting that feeling again. So I think first it was a coping mechanism that I just don't want to be leveraged again. And then it gave me that push that I needed to really step into what was instinctive to me anyway. Because if I trace this back a little bit further, when I was 15, I already started a business. Okay. Right, it was an organic toothbrush business.
Oh wow!
So have you ever heard of Meswak?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so it's an ancient tree little toothbrush, still around till today, right? I was selling those, and it was just a little organic business that I was just handing out leaflets. It was actually doing all right. It didn't make crazy money, but as if I think about a 15-year-old now, like back then it felt normal, and my whole history will explain more of that. But if I think back, I'm like 15 years old, I was hustling.
Yeah.
I was getting on with it.
Definitely with that business idea.
So it was instinctive in me to do that. And I think over the years, our dreams, they get beat out of us. And then the typical society tells you, but you need a job, you need to go to uni, you need to do these things.
Yeah.
It beats the dreams out of us. So you lose your confidence. So when you get to 18, 17, 19, the society pressures makes you feel like you need things figured out.
Yeah.
You need to know what you're going to do. You get pressure from family. Before you know it, you go down a road that you don't actually really want to do.
Yeah.
But it pushed me to tap into that version of me that was always there in the first place. It pushed me to tap into the paper round days.
Yeah.
So I already had that kind of get up and go, do something. But
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to have the belief to carry that through? You just go into what you think is safe, and that's normal.
Definitely. It's funny you mentioned that, because I watched your recent interview with Ibby, and I heard you talk about that, having 2 paper rounds, and it took me back to my days, because I had 2 paper rounds. I wasn't as dedicated, waking up at 5:30 a.m. At those times, I was about 6, had a little bit of a lie-in, but yeah, no, it took me back to that, and I realized that, there are common traits within those who are actually committed and actually have that mindset. Even sometimes, as you say, like gets beaten out of them, but it's still there. It's still, that's the core. That's the foundation. That's always been there. And unfortunately, a lot of people kind of get hazed over with other people's opinions, especially, as you say, at that age, 16, 17, 18. It's kind of like people gang up on you. If I remember back, it was like your parents do it, your family do it. Obviously, all your friends are doing it anyway, so you're observing your environment are all making the same choices. And then on top of that, the school, the establishment are telling you, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, you need to be looking at your options, pick your 5 unis and your backups and everything. Exactly. They're kind of instilling this mindset of, you might fail at 1 or 2, but have your backups, have all these different plans and options, none of which are self-serving or trying to do entrepreneurship or anything, all of which in the establishment, in the box.
They're scared themselves. It's like you're having your business. I took business studies, right? It's like, has my business studies teacher ever run a business? No. Can teach me about the logistics about business. You can say, oh, this is tax, this is corporation tax, this is VAT, this is company structure, this is infrastructure. You can say all the things in theory that do make sense. I'm not discrediting the knowledge, because the knowledge is legit, but the experience is the knowledge is not. So then how can that person ever tell me this is what you should do? It's like someone who's not a millionaire telling someone, if I had millions, this is what I would do. You don't know because you don't have it.
Yeah.
And I think that is the problem with that part of it. But you don't realize that. And I think that is such an important thing for any young entrepreneur, anyone that wants to achieve goals, to actually think about. Audit the information that you're getting. If they don't have, if they've not done it, they don't have the answers. So someone can genuinely have good knowledge, but if it doesn't come with experience, it doesn't carry as much weight.
Definitely. No, definitely. And it is something that it kind of teaches a wrong lesson as well, doesn't it? At a young age, when you're kind of not aware of these things, when you're being taught and the establishment is saying, okay, this person is going to teach you how to master this subject. And then you don't question it either because you know no different. But would you say, though, that you kind of observed this yourself and at that time? Or was it something where you kind of picked it up later or realized later on?
It was a little bit later on. I don't think I had self-awareness at that point to do that. My last year of school, which is really interesting, it was a very, very tough time from a family perspective.
Okay.
My dad, for those who don't know, my dad, he had a stroke when I was 5 years old. So I've been looking after my parents my whole life. So as you can imagine, you grow up very fast.
Yes.
But there were periods in which it's more difficult, when more things are happening, health is improving a bit, and then suddenly it declines.
Yeah.
The last year of my school was very isolated. So I went from someone who was, of course, doing paper. I wasn't doing paper round at that point, but before I'd finished it at that point. But I went from someone who would literally be on my paper round 5 a.m., 5:20 a.m., first one at school, playing basketball, playing football. Bearing in mind, I live like an hour and a half away. I'm still there before most people get there.
Yeah.
That level of discipline to things were so bad, so emotionally bad, and I had to be there for my family. I couldn't leave the house until like 8:30, start at 9. So I was getting there late, turning up for first period, halfway through with no real explanation, not playing football at lunch, just spending time on my own, and then not going to things after school. And then I was the only one that lived the way that I did.
Yeah.
So then I remember the last day of school of walking past the field, looking back at the school and thinking, this is it. And I'd had a whole year of isolation.
Yeah.
So it was, I don't think I had the self-awareness at that point, but it was that shaped me. I spent a lot of time in solitude because of the circumstance, but I didn't learn this type of mindset until probably about 3-4 years after that, when I got around some good mentors. So I had it in me, but they showed me the way.
So they kind of like open your eyes to it,
Yeah.
and sort of give you, would you say they give you the keys and then you have to obviously take the action to unlock those doors yourself?
Yeah, they taught me how to think. That's the key thing. They taught me how to think.
Yeah.
And they showed me, they gave me the awareness of how people explain things. I'll give you an example. I remember the first time my mentor explained something and said, why would you use a negative to explain a positive? He goes, let me give you an example. He says, Mark, how are you? I said, yeah, not bad. Yourself? He was like, what do you mean not bad? He was like, why would you use not bad? He was like, it's like saying, how's business going? Yeah, can't complain, as if you should be complaining. It's like a negative neuro pathway.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest, that's all he had to say. I was like, right, you've got my attention now. I need to now change the way that I actually think in the first place, because fundamentally how we think shapes our life. So, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're both usually right. That's what that meant. I didn't realize that's what it meant when he explained it. So I stopped. Since that day, if someone said, how are you? I'm good. I'm great. I'm amazing. I would change the way that I think. So they showed me these little things, but the key thing is they could have told me lots of things, but I was willing to be open. I was willing to be moldable. I was willing to be a sponge.
Yeah.
Realize, because the one thing I can give myself credit for is that it felt very natural to look at someone who was successful and go, you're successful. You've got what I want.
Yeah.
You have the answers. So who am I to be so arrogant to question your way of doing things when you've got what I want?
Yeah.
This industry confuses that a lot, but yeah, they showed me the ropes, but I took it on board very, very quickly. And people think change happens over months and months. Change happens quickly.
Yeah.
When you get the right buttons pushed, it's almost like that. Oh, how does someone who decides to want to lose weight, do they do it over someone who is literally like 30 stone, 40 stone, someone who is really, really unhealthy? How do they lose weight? Do they incrementally do it? Or do they one day wake up and go, enough is enough? Yeah. They get the bottle of Pepsi, they pour it down the sink. It's dramatic. Change happens. That switch in you happens quickly. And I realized that, but I was under the impression that change happens slowly. Doesn't. It's the result takes time, but the switch in you, it's like you decide that I'm making a change. I am now a person of discipline. And you just do it.
I've experienced the same in my own life, actually. Now that I reflect on it, it's the same thing. Like when the result of the change might be a little bit more delayed, but the actual change itself is instant. And it's a decision. It's actually something I spoke about on the podcast that just come out in terms of when I was going through depression. It's the same thing. It was like I was going through depression for months, and I just woke up one day in the morning and just said, I don't want to feel this way no more.
Yeah.
And the change was instant. The relief was instant. And though the actual result of that change may have showed up a little bit later, but the actual day-to-day was completely switched off from that. Even with trading, I remember when I was just doing the usual, wasn't really serious, about trading. And then I just made the choice because I've had enough of the pain, had enough of the same story repeating itself. And when I decided to change, it all switched. Now, the results didn't just switch overnight, but the actual mindset towards trading was different. The way I treated trading was different just from that day on, from that moment on. And, sometimes you can say it was because of those lows that allowed you to make that switch. And having the right mentors and guidance as well, definitely, who can just open your eyes to it, make you, as you say, like showing you the right questions, using the right language, just as simple as language. I love that, actually. It's very, very, very powerful. And I know that from observing you for many years and seeing all the different things you've done, I've seen that what some would maybe consider the little things or the things that maybe aren't as important because they're not really necessarily the trading things, but yet I believe is a huge amount, not only to your own success but also your traders. Stuff like the affirmations. That you wrote a book during your journey, and I think we probably skipped a little bit here, which is my own fault, but what was the sort of inspiration behind doing that?
So the book was basically a blueprint. I've got all of my old journals. I wish I brought one today with me. You can see my first original journal. So I've been journaling for a long period of time, not realizing that how I'm journaling from what I was taught was a formula. So the way I would write my goals down wasn't in the way that if someone read my old original goals, they'd be like, it's a nut job. This is crazy, because I was writing things as if they'd already happened. And remember, it wasn't as mainstream back then. So social media doesn't exist. So it's not like this knowledge is readily available and it's normal to learn about visualization or Jim Carrey's story about his £10 million check. Like these things didn't exist. So the knowledge was very limited. Now there's knowledge everywhere. However, I would write my goals in a way in which that they'd already happened. So my first goal that I wrote in detail was about my Audi A3. I would say I have my Audi A3 on or before, and then I would put a date. I wouldn't be attached to the date, but you have to have something to aim for, otherwise shooting in the dark. And I would write the detail. The detail was so specific to the point that I could smell the leather, all the senses were involved. You couldn't tell me I don't already own the car. It's like, no, this is mine. This is my Audi A3. This is the brake horsepower. These are the cylinders. This is everything. This is how I'm looking at it. Even me sitting in the car, stopping at a traffic light and looking in the shop window and seeing the reflection of me in the car with my Ray-Bans on. Like the detail is the excruciating detail. So I realized this is not normal to write these goals down. My mentors have showed me the ropes. There's a formula to what I'm doing here. So unconsciously, I was writing it section by section. It was like, right, here is the affirmations. Like, right, I have this on or before. Right, set the date, set the timeline. Then this is the excruciating detail. Then I would write, right, what are the knowledge and skills required to get it? Right, who are the people I'm going to associate with to get it? And then the list goes on, and the formula is in there, visualization, vision board, and it was just like a step-by-step. It wasn't always exactly in order, but there was a formula in there that I realized this is clearly working. So I was identifying what skills and knowledge do I need to achieve the goal, right? Who do I need to associate to achieve the goal? What person do I need to become to achieve the goal? And I was like, this is not normal for people to do. And I can attribute all of my success because of that, because it's all in the mindset. So I realized at one point, I could turn this into a book. This would be really cool, because how do I actually get across to people, in my opinion, why I thought people were struggling with trading? So it was actually triggered from trading. I'll explain why. This is very important. Knowledge is just knowledge. But if you fundamentally don't believe in yourself, if you study greats like Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali, and you look at the self-hypnosis of like, I am the greatest, these things are important, right? Because then you look on the other side of, I can't remember his name, the MMA fighter, the one who used to self-sabotage, something Jones is.
John Jones.
Yeah. So you know his self-sabotage story, right? He used to sleep with prostitutes, do cocaine before. Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Lack of self-image, doesn't believe in himself, and then has an excuse as to if he had lost a fight, this is the reason. This is what traders do. And I realized that all of these traders out there, they want to succeed. And at this point, I'm connected with quite a lot of people. I'm looking at my life, look at what I've achieved. I looked at my journals, my goals, my daily discipline. Every single day I show up, and I've got that all the way documented since 2012. And I would realize, well, how are any of these traders ever going to accomplish what they want if I jump on a call with them and say, listen, John, what are your goals? They're like, or I'll phrase it differently, because this is what my mentor asked me. He said, show me your list of goals. And I was like, list of goals? So he's implying that I should have them, and he wants to see the list. So not only do I not have goals written down, I can't show him nothing.
Yeah.
So how can someone take themselves seriously if they've got either their goals written on scrapbooks of paper and post-it notes,
Yeah.
or they haven't even got them down in the first place? How could you possibly achieve it? So that's where that stemmed from. I wanted to give people the infrastructure to go, right, if you want to get into fitness, you want to build a business, you want to be a trader, this blueprint will assist you in getting some order and structure in your life, and you'll start programming your mind to actually think you can believe it, and it will happen in the first place.
No, definitely. And it's a very powerful thing, because a lot of people just generally in daily life, let alone people who choose to do something as trading or entrepreneurship as a whole, but just generally in life, don't have any goals, don't have any really clear direction. The most of their goals might be is, I want to go on holiday this year, I want to have a nice break to wherever it may be, and that's about it. Or maybe I want to buy this one nice thing, and that's it. That's as limited as it gets. And I always say the same thing, like, if you don't have a clear vision of where you're trying to go, you might have one goal of, I want to be a trader, and that's it. I just want to be a full-time trader. But there's, as you say, the clarity, the actual image. I'm always saying to people as well, like, visualize what that is. What does that look like? What does your space look like? What is, is that person disciplined? Is that person, tidy? Are they, do they have a particular incense or candle? But it's that level of detail that's necessary. And I completely agree. Like with the car example, did you go to the extent of, say, going to a showroom, sitting in the car, maybe even test driving the car, so you knew every detail of it, the buttons, how it felt? I think you did, because based on how you described it.
I tell you a hack that I done, which is the secret hack. I went to the Lambo dealership first, right? And there's a reason why I done that. The Lambo goal was too far within my reach financially at that moment. However, the very goal that I had for the Audi was still up on a pedestal to some degree, because I'm driving a Nissan Micra at this point. So I'm still driving like a £1,200 car. Yeah. There is still an image attached into there. There's a friction of like, yeah, but are you the person yet? And you have all these thoughts that you have to manage. Yeah. So I had to dilute the goal, and I do this a lot. I minimize the impact of it. So if the Audi is the big goal, I need to go to something that it just throws that out the water, like a Lamborghini, Ferrari, Porsche, etc. And I'd go around, I'd swan around those and just look at these cars. How much is this? Oh, it's 110k, 120k. I'd go look at the Audi. It's like 35k at the time. I was like, yeah, it's achievable. Yeah. Right. So in my mind, I diluted it. And I think what people do is the opposite. They make the goal that is just an incremental stepping stone. Just because it's a stretch from where they are right now, they make that too far in their head, and then they fall short of it.
Yes, no, that's very, very interesting. I should never thought about that way, but it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. And as soon as people put things on a pedestal, or that's the end goal. That's what I've realized, is, especially as a lot of traders, is this is the end goal, and suddenly they do finally achieve that, and then that's where the anxiety comes in. That's where they feel a bit confused and lost, because they get hit with this slight dopamine hit, but they feel like, that's it now, I've achieved something. It happened to me. I remember when I had forever, everyone as a trader, they're thinking, when I get that big payout, that big withdrawal, that's it, I've made it. And then it comes and nothing changes. It's just numbers in the bank account, and nothing else changes. There isn't this, there isn't this celebration. People don't just jump out and start clapping or anything like that, and then you have to really question, like, okay, that wasn't it. What is it going to be it? But I think it's the pursuit. It's actually the pursuit of trying to achieve something, and having not just the one layer, the multi-layer, the multi-year, the future vision in detail of, here's step one, here's step two, or chapter one, if you will. And as we said already, though, that's probably far ahead of what people are actually doing, where they're just surface level. They're just thinking on one layer or just one chapter. They're not thinking beyond that. And I think because of what you said there, and I think just in case it went over people's head, is that, if you put the first goal as on the pedestal, in your mind you end up overinflating, like thinking it's not achievable. So suddenly something that isn't actually your end goal, let's say the Lamborghini is, and you have the Audi. If you put the Audi up here, suddenly you're thinking that's too far out of reach. It's a very powerful notion, because I don't think people really think in that way. They don't think in that way at all.
It's not normal for them to think like that.
That's it.
Which is why the biggest problem I see in this industry, which is they want to get funded by FTMO, for example, right? Which is great because it is an incredible stepping stone for all funds out there. But they put that goal as so attached to them personally in their image. Yeah. It's a dangerous game because when they fall short of it and they don't achieve it, it messes them up. Yep. So they're finished from day one. They set themselves up for failure. And if they do achieve it and then they lose it, which statistically they do, even after a big withdrawal, which we know with those statistics, what happens then? They're emotionally attached to that, so their image is then diluted again. So they go back and they hit a new rock bottom, right? Because they said that I was going to do this, I'd done it, and then I lost it, therefore I must not be good enough. And they go around the loop again. They're like, well, maybe it was just a sequence of trades, and because I hit the drawdown limit, that was the problem. So what they do, they go for another assessment, another assessment, then they're 4,000 euros in. Still haven't worked on this elf. It's crazy.
Well, I think that's how these prop firms are designed. They're designed. Well, first of all, people just don't realize that they're designed for you to fail. You know, majority of them, if not all of them, are designed to fail. They apply the pressure because real trading isn't based on you have to achieve this amount, you know, in this time. You know, that's not how an edge just performs, right? But people don't realize that. I can't tell you how many people I've come across, even people who, you know, I've sort of interacted with for a while, which then shocks me because I think haven't I done a good job, you know? And they've never achieved the actual target, but yet they will go do it. They'll throw money at it, and it just reverts back to like now it's the prop firms. You know, we talk maybe 6-7 years ago. It was just brokers. There wasn't the prop firm. It was just people would throw the money into broker. The difference being though that they would actually trade the whole £500. They might lose it in a very quick succession, but they would trade the whole, say, £500.
Same thing in a different disguise.
Yeah, exactly. But people now, as you say, they associate. They're taking that same thing we just talked about, where here's the FTMO funded title. That's the end goal. And they just forget everything else. They forget everything, you know, the whole reason of being a trader, you know, or choosing to be a trader and what you're trying to do with that and how you're going to leverage that, etc. It's just that, just being funded.
I think a lot of their questions come from how, and that's why. It doesn't come from why, it comes from how. So it's like, how can I be a FTMO funded trader? How can I make six figures? And that's a good place to start, because you are asking how, which triggers the mind to start thinking. However, if the why is not there, it's like, but why do you want to do that? I don't know. So if you don't know why, the brain will not work towards getting it done. You need to know why. So if your why is right, I want to retire my mum and dad. I want the reason why I want to do it is because after trading, when I've got this money, this cash flow is going to go into this property investment, or it's going to go into helping this animal shelter, or it's going to help building hospitals in a different country, third world country. Then it's like there is a desire there unconsciously that when you don't feel like doing something, you just do it. Because you autopilot, you remember this is why I'm doing it. If you can visualize the emotion of the joy that what your mum and dad would feel, that when you can just retire and say, listen, that shitty job that you're doing, you don't have to do it no more. Like, you're done. That's good. I've got you covered forever. That's done. Imagine the feeling there. Do you think when you're questioning yourself with self-doubt that emotion is not going to just spark to say, just get on with it, you know, whatever you're going through? And I think that's what they lack. They're thinking about how. As soon as something doesn't go their way, which statistically it will, they get destroyed. It's so unfortunate.
Well, I think there's a layer you just introduced there, which is definitely very powerful, which is some people know their why, for example. And they believe they're using their why properly in the right manner. But I think what you just stepped on there, or touched on there, sorry, should I say, is actually visualizing your why, you know? So, like, I don't think people do that. I don't think people do that. They might have their why written down somewhere, maybe thrown it away somewhere, and it's not really something they're reminding themselves of daily, like you said, as an exercise. So already they're not really utilizing a strong why. But even then, visualizing that. So not just the goal, not just your personal, you know, aspiration or whatever it may be, but actually the why aspect. Because a lot of people's whys aren't selfish. And when I speak to a lot of people, it is the same thing where it's like retire the parents, or give back to my family, or look after my kids, whatever it may be. But then visualizing that, you know, I've never actually thought about it in that way, to be honest with you. Like, to actually visualize that end result, visualize that why in detail. It's a very powerful notion.
You become relentless. You become unstoppable. No one can stop someone like that, because they're constantly reminded by something bigger than themselves. If it's superficial and it's just about you, look, eventually you can do without the Ferrari,
Yeah.
because you'll find reasons as to, oh, maybe a Ferrari is not that important to me anymore.
Yeah.
But you retiring your mum and dad, that's always going to be important.
Yeah.
So it pushes you to become the person that you need to be to make that happen. And that's the feeling that if more traders attached onto, they would do the inner work required to become the person. The good thing is, just like trading skill, once you're competent on the charts, you know what you're doing, right? Regardless of what strategy you trade, no one can take that away from you. You might go through a patch where you're not as sharp, and this comes more into mental performance, right? You're not as sharp, you might take trades, you deviate from your trading plan. Listen, it happens to the best of traders. However, it's yourself, your mindset. Once you've got the right mindset, no one can take that away from you. There's a reason why people that, millionaires worth tons of millions, lose everything, go bankrupt, they're a millionaire again in a year.
Yeah.
How is that even possible for someone to think about? They can't rationalize that thought. It's because when you are the person, you know the steps.
Yeah.
So no one can take it away from you. So to avoid the big elephant in the room, which is yourself, I think is a slippery slope for people, that it comes to haunt you at a later stage. I was there as well. I'm not immune to this. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
When I first started that stocks course, I don't know why, but I had this image in my head that after 7 days, because it's like 2 or 3 days,
Yeah.
I've cracked it. I wasn't so deluded to think I'm going to make loads of money,
Yeah.
but I just would have thought it's enough for me to learn the knowledge in there.
Yeah.
And I was confused, thinking if I've got the knowledge, therefore I should be able to apply that. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
In this game anyway.
That's it. Well, we've moved back there now. So, talk about your sort of ascension in your trading journey. So you did that seminar, and as we all do, because I did the very similar thing where I did mine was a 3 day, I think maybe a 3 days, but a similar thing. Yeah. And afterwards I felt, I got this, this is, I understood this. Same thing, like not thinking I'll make loads of money, but I'm not going to lose money, I've got this down. But like, what was the ascension? What was the journey from there? Because, especially starting in stocks, and now obviously now I think you do multiple different ventures, markets. But obviously now you started with stocks, so a 2 day seminar. Where did it move from there?
So it was interesting. So originally I didn't think the knowledge that I knew from stocks could be applied to Forex.
Okay.
So as you can imagine, that was how limited my knowledge was at the time. I'm not saying knowledge is a bad thing, but too much knowledge just leads to you being paralyzed in the first place.
Yeah.
There is not a correlation with someone who has, the person who is the most knowledgeable is the most successful. Success leaves clues. That's not the clue. It never has been. However, I didn't realize what I'm learning in stocks can be applied to Forex. But that came a little bit after, because what I would do, I would be, there's something called power plays. And what we'd do is we'd look at the volume that day on a stock. And then when it pulled back to like a pivot, it was like an element of support and resistance with patterns involved in it.
Okay.
There's still some things that I learned from day one, I incorporate today, but I just know them on a such deeper understanding.
Yeah.
Right. But not your typical chart patterns that you see on like an ascending channel. I use it, but it's in such a different degree in which I use it. But I still started off with that wedges, double tops. It's still the same thing. I just know it on such a deeper level.
Yeah.
However, I realized this can be applied to multiple markets. But I've done reasonably well in stocks by fluke. Even though they told me to risk 1%, guess what I didn't do? I didn't risk 1%.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do. We're so arrogant. We think we know everything, and we ignore the instructions that the professionals are telling us. It happens all the time. So I wasn't immune to that. And it was because I thought, well, I can afford to lose 100 quid on this trade.
Yeah.
I had 2K trading account, right? I can afford to lose 100 quid. It's fine. I'll just risk it. And sometimes it would be 50, sometimes 200 if I felt really good, which was terrible. And the worst thing is it would work. That was the worst thing that happened. It worked. And I've met many traders in similar scenario that have made far more than me on a scenario like that, where they've banked like 100K from a 10K account. And you tell that person that what you've done was wrong. You can't. It's almost impossible. So what I did is I built that account up to roughly just over 10K. And then it was MF Global at the time, right? And then they went into liquidation, and it was a bad day. Honestly, emotionally. Even though I built it up the wrong way, I still felt like that was my money. Like I'd still done it, regardless of whether it was sustainable or not. I still made that money, and it was just all gone. So imagine your confidence then, like you're trying to log in, you can't log in.
Yeah.
And it took about 3.5 years later until I got some compensation back from that, which I got about £1,600. But I'd already become successful then, so the 1,600 meant nothing. So it's funny how like when it came to me, didn't even need it, I didn't even want it, I'd forgotten about it. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. Yeah, got a little bonus.
But what was because I can imagine like people go through not maybe that same experience, right? But they will go through something similar where, again, like they might not be doing it in a sustainable right way, normally the case. But even let's say they have that moment where just a lapse of judgment or something similar again, broker or whatever it may be, but they lose it all. They have that moment, that first time where they just, they're feeling amazing. The dopamine's at its highest, the God complex at its highest, cracked the market. And then suddenly, overnight, changed. The whole opposite, the complete opposite has happened. And in that moment, you've already put in all this hard work, especially I remember you mentioning that you put savings into this account.
Of course.
So, you've worked extremely hard for this moment. And suddenly it's been taken away for whatever reason, whether it's you or outside forces, even worse, if anything, because when it's yourself, at least exactly. I did that. But like, what was the feeling like after? And then how did you rebuild yourself afterwards?
The good thing is, again, I'm going to bring it back to the why. I still knew, and I was relentless for this, because I remember my brother asking me, he was like, what are you going to do now? Like, I don't know the answer just yet, but I'll figure one out. Don't get me wrong, I was distraught. It took me a while, like a good 7 to 10 days to fully just accept it, that this has actually happened. You still try and log in again, hoping something's there, and you still can't log in. So I remember those emotions. That was very, very difficult, but I was committed to just do it. So I thought, right, I'm going to gather whatever money I can. I'm going to work, and I've done multiple jobs. I was working in bars, glass collecting. I was doing everything. I worked in hobbycraft. You name it. I was doing something to gather up money, just to build up. Like, if I can build up 500 quid, if I can build up £1,000, maybe I could turn it into £2,000. I was still under the same bullshit mindset, but not realize, because I was in a revenge mode then. It was like, I need this money back. I need to get it.
You've been attacked.
Even then, I didn't build it back in the right way. However, I didn't accept that this is over. I just think that I could have done it in a little bit of a better way, but I had no guidance. I had no mentor. That in trading, I had no mentor. I had no one saying, look, don't worry about it. These are the steps. I just used any logical part of my mind, which is, can I work to gain money? And then that money can turn into money, and eventually I'll be back at 10K again, and then I can turn that 10 into 20 and so on. So that's the kind of journey that I went on.
I can imagine, because it feels like that, doesn't it? Especially when it's not in your control. Like when it wasn't your personal mistake, you won't realize it wasn't sustainable. You will think that that was a good thing, and I just
repeated the same thing.
Yeah. Is that what happened after? Did you obviously do the work, get the account, and then do something similar?
It took me to a point where I realized, right, I need to get to a stage in which I knew that wasn't sustainable. So I wasn't so far deluded that, right, me risking 5% on a trade is a good thing. I just was calculating the monetary value as to, if I lost that, would it put me out on the street? No. So that's okay. So I'd keep justifying it that way. But I knew eventually I had this like magical figure in my head. Once I'm on 50 grand, I'll risk 1%. And it's a really bad mindset, because it's almost like I'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. The reality is, if you're not disciplined on 1K, you won't be on 1 mil. Right now, trading those two different figures is a very different ballgame from a mindset point of view. However, you've got to build the right habits then, because you won't suddenly do 5 years of building an account. Suddenly, so let's say you get a private investment and they're like, yeah, you know your stuff, you're doing well. Here's $500,000, go and perform. And then you're like, right, I'm going to risk 1% now. It just doesn't work like that. You've built up really, really bad habits. But I was very fortunate. So this part of my career in which so I was working in London for a long period of time. Finally had enough of that. And then I quit my job on not too much funds, not something I would recommend to the average trader right now. I had like just over 10K. But I was so miserable in the day-to-day of going to London, 3 hours there, 3 hours back. It was just so intense. I got to a point which is, if I can just cover my outgoings and even just make $1,000 a month, honestly, I would be far happier just taking a step back and doing that than earning $5,000 a month, being miserable in the city. That was literally my thought process. So I decided, quit. This is enough. I've got enough. As long as I can do that, I've got my freedom. I can build from there. And it got to a point which I was doing well, but not well enough. So if I'd made 4%, I'm competent. 4% is still okay, but it wasn't enough. Because the 4%, even though I'm doing well, it still doesn't cover anything. So I got to a point after about 6-7 months where I remember saying to my brother, which he was the lifeline at that point, which was, I might have to go back to work because this is actually not sustainable. And then he had 30K, right? And this wasn't like, he wasn't wealthy at this point either. He was on his way up. He's involved in property. He was working his way up. But this was the savings that he had, that he couldn't really do too much with that, but he had it there. He was like, what would this do for you? And I said, honestly, it would completely change everything, because if I've then topped that up to like 40, if I make 10%, that's like $4,000. I don't need to have a $4,000 lifestyle just yet. I can build it up. And that was the point. That saved me. So I would be forever grateful to that, which is why I always give back to my brother, and we're very, very close for that reason.
Of course.
Family is very important to me, and helping each other out. But honestly, that was the moment. If it wasn't for him, I could have gone back to work, just from a logical point. Not because I was incompetent, but it just didn't make sense. So I built my way up from there all the way up to 100K.
Yeah.
And that was when I started to attract investment.
That's incredible. No, it's an incredible story. And the interesting thing is, some people might look at that and think, his brother sorted him out, But the reality is even for your brother, as you say, that was that was him risking it all, taking a leap of faith. So in essence, it always boils back down to the same thing, taking the risk, Your brother had to take the risk, and at the end of the day, you knew the severity of that risk and that choice, right? And you knew it was then that responsibility is on your shoulders, and people won't see that.
Serious pressure.
Yeah.
They'll be like, his brother sorted him out. My family's not wealthy.
Yeah.
They never was wealthy. This is hard graft, especially my brother. He had to step up because he's older than me. He's like nearly 10 years older. So when we was going through the period of my dad unwell when I'm 5, he's older than me. He's literally working 4 jobs and not buying expensive trainers, not doing nothing, literally just providing for the family.
Yeah.
So we kind of had that instilled in us that, I don't know whether this is like a cultural thing or whatever, but our money is all money. Like if I go and buy something, if I was in London, for example, and I bought a jacket, I wouldn't be like, can you just sort me out £300? I'd be like, I'll just buy it for you. Yeah. It's just, there's not that tallying of price, and that's always been within the culture of our family, because I don't have a big family in the UK. They're like scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like our togetherness of helping each other out.
That unit.
Has always been important. But immense pressure of, right, should I take this on? Because what if I lose some of it? This is not like he's got 30K to just burn, right? And it could go into drawdown, and then I've got the pressure of, are you in drawdown, right? That money is now worth less. Could you lose all of it? And it was just, it was very pressurizing, but I went with it with full confidence because I trusted my ability, I had the consistency. I just didn't have enough capital for it to warrant to actually be of much.
No, 100%. And it's an amazing thing because, while everyone else a lot of the time talks about they didn't have the support, right? They don't have the support of their family or friends, in terms of trading. They're actually getting the opposite. Don't do this. Stop it. It's not going to work. When they finally hear a story like yourself where someone is trying to support you, then they will try and do the opposite, where it's like, that's not right. Couldn't have done that,
Exactly.
It's a very interesting mindset, to see people experience the negative and wish they had the positive. But then when they observe the positive, they think that, that's not right, but they don't understand the pressures. They don't understand that for both sides, it's still a leap of faith. It's still taking on that risk, at the end of the day, what, the worst case scenario would have been terrible, right? And I'm sure, could have easily led to, say, damage in that unit,
Exactly.
But thankfully, with the mindset, and I think the mindset is everything, because you could be disciplined on, say, 10K, because easily, for example, you could take that capital and know it's essentially not yours. Like you didn't build that pot, for example, and therefore treat it differently. Not treat it with the respect that is necessary, regardless of where the capital came from. And I think that's what happens with these prop firms. It's the same thing where it's people need the capital, and it is a great opportunity to be able to leverage this capital, but they don't respect it. They don't respect it in 2 ways. Like one, they won't respect it when it comes to being disciplined to actually make use of it. But then on the flip side, when they lose it, they respect it as 100K when it wasn't actually 100K.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're like, I've lost 100K, or that's how they will interpret it. When in reality, the way they were treating it in the first place wasn't like it was 100K. But then when they lose it, they feel it like it was 100K.
Exactly. Remember, you're not trading the account, you're trading the risk of the account. And that was something, that's a good little hack. I always tell this to my students as well. You're not trading the number. So say if you've got $1 million and you're risking 1%, you're trading 10K per position. Stop taking the emotion on the million, because the million is not at risk at one given time, right? Of course, if you have a stop loss on, I hope. You get my point, right? Yeah. It's people take on the emotional weight of the whole account.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the prop firm things do to a lot of people. They take that personally as like, I've lost my 100K. It wasn't your 100K. You've lost your assessment.
Yep.
That's what you've lost. And you've lost the emotional attachment on what you thought it could be.
Yep.
And that's now damaged your image. And that's why you feel so vulnerable. Because the reality is, you can just apply again. The fact that you can access that so quickly after just hitting the criteria is a blessing within itself. It's just, I think in a world when things become easier somewhere, there will be hardship somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't just get gifted this, because it's now easier to access capital than ever before as a trader, correct? However, that means that there has to be an opposing force that is going to be more difficult.
Yeah.
So if it's easier to come to you, it must then therefore be harder to keep.
Yeah.
Which means that the inner work has to be done for you to keep the money. Because why is it that people, you've seen the withdrawals online, right? They might bank 70k on gold. Always gold, funny enough. But you know, if you actually look at the statistics, gold is always the most frequent pair traded, which they have the biggest payouts because of the volatility, etc. But they will bank the 70k, and in a couple of weeks, their account will be gone.
Yep.
How? Someone with this is why with the right mindset that wouldn't happen, which means that person wasn't ready. Because if you've been influenced by 70k, sometimes a lot smaller, it's like just a 20k withdrawal, they'll get influenced so much, the cockiness, the arrogance, the God complex, they'll think they're invincible, and they will deviate from all of their plan.
Yep.
But to me, someone who's been in this industry for 15 years, when you're competent, you wouldn't do that. Like 10k wouldn't just influence the way you now make another decision. 50k withdrawal wouldn't suddenly make you feel like you've cracked the market. Yet I see that in a lot of infant traders.
Well, yeah, but normally it's because they haven't actually learned really, about money or the actual skill set of trading. They've again done the similar thing, because that happened to me. Yeah, that exact scenario happened to me. I did the first ever prop firm account. It was like one of those classic. It's the book The Alchemist. It talks about beginner's luck. So it was a very classic thing where I heard about prop firms for a good year probably at least, and never tried it. I never actually looked into it. I just heard this name popping up, the infamous FTMO was just there. And then I did the challenge the first time, right? First time ever, passed it. Like, cool. Like passing your driving test. You feel like this is really good. Did the verification, passed it. Oh, this is easy. People always complaining about, passed it. And then on my first ever month, on 100K, I did 60%, right? And that was following, at the time, it was following a plan, but it was kind of similar, like you're saying, like there was a sort of variable risk, stuff like this. So it wasn't professional. It wasn't actual professional trading. But I did 60%. So already it's really bad that I was managed to have such a result without the professional mindset. What happened the next month? I did 2%, right? Which was lucky in itself, because really I should have blown it the next month. What happened the third month? Now it's gone, right? And the damage in mindset. So first the mindset was that suddenly I've had this huge payout, which is incredible, because it was so easy, right? I did past, big payout. So then my psychology is there, like, and I thought I'd feel something as well. I'd feel like this is it. Now I've hacked it. And I felt in one way, I'm a successful trader now. But then on the flip side, I'd suddenly gotten this money and nothing changed. I still had to pay my bills. I still had to get up in the morning. I still had to get on the charts. Nothing changed. So that was an interesting thing to experience. And then the next month I hit 2%, but I was doing the same thing. Why is it that I only got 2% this time, right? And now I'm questioning myself. And then the next month I'm trying to force it. I've had 60%, I need to hit 80%. I did 90%, and then it's gone. And then I learned a very valuable lesson. That was, if anything, what you could consider a really bad experience. It was probably the best experience I could ever have. And it's one of those things that stands out in my journey. When I tell a story to a lot of these infant traders, I tell them, I say, look, you can be one of these guys who goes and just gets lucky. Anyone can get lucky. Anyone can have just so happen to have a string and get a big payout. And you could be that guy. But the reality is that in the end, the casino will win. They will win. They will get you, because I could have easily, because you could always, and you could get a big payout. But the reality is, just like with the big withdrawals on your normal brokerage account, the reality is you're going to pump that money back in, but the psychology is different now. Your mindset, as you said, you've had the peak. Now you're in a new depth of low that you haven't experienced.
And do you know what the craziest thing is? The things that you do early on, they go unpunished.
Yes.
They go unpunished in the short term, and that's the hard part about it, that you don't realize that you making this mistake of, let's say, for example, someone decides out of feeling, but this trade, this is a really high criteria, so these ones, they usually do well, so I'm going to decide to risk 5% on this, or 3%. They start playing with the numbers, not actually understanding statistical edge. So what they'll do is they'll decide, I'll go 3% because this seems better. A trade with lower quality of probability can still bank you more than a trade that's high quality. So how can you pick and choose and know the exact sequence? It just goes against everything of probabilities. However, they will win in the short term. So the 3% they risk will actually work. So they make a decent sum of money. And you try and tell that person that, no, what you've done is incorrect. You can't. So it goes unpunished for a period of time, and then until it doesn't. And then when you do get punished, you get humbled in seconds. It's happened to me before.
Yeah.
It's not a nice, I don't wish it upon any trader, by the way. It's just, you need to be aware of it. You can't avoid it because it will come back to haunt you at a later stage, 100%.
I think every trader to some degree will have to experience it, and hopefully, as you say, we don't wish it on anyone and we don't want it to be a big, it has to be on a huge amount or anything like that. But I think to some degree, whether it's on a small account, whether it's, whether it is a larger account, a funded account, whatever it is, these traits have to be learned through experience. And that's something I realized in my journey. Like I had, my mum, for example, as a great blessing, would instill a good mindset into me from a young age, but I didn't appreciate it because, it was all I knew. I didn't have the experience. So she would advise, hey, maybe don't do this or maybe do this, right? I'll take a good example, books. She would advise me to read these books. She would hand me these books like Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was like 13 or 14. And at that time, I was like, I'm not reading this. And they're not even big books, those ones, especially Richest Man in Babylon. Very small book, but very powerful in terms of what it's teaching, especially at that age. At any age, but that age in particular would put me ahead of my years. But what happened was I shoved it off. I was like, no, I don't want to read. That's boring. What happens years later when I'm now seeking advancement and growth? Now all the mentors that I'm seeing are recommending me these same books, right? And only through then that experience of trying myself now, trying to adapt myself, making that choice, was I more observant and open to then doing this. And I think it's the same with trading. Like we can advise the best advice from our own experience. And there will be some who do take it on board and therefore they won't have to maybe feel it as much and they will be more aware of it or at least notice it more easily because they've taken that advice on board. But then there'll be those who they shoo it off, they shrug it off. They think, no, I know what I'm doing. And then only through experience will they sort of really understand that lesson and that value and what you were saying.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you can't take the punches for them. Eventually, they've got to get in the ring and they have to experience it themselves, which is good, right? Because it does toughen you up. Like taking losses, you've experienced it yourself. When you take enough losses, eventually, you kind of become immune to it. It's like it doesn't affect you as much as what it used to.
Yeah.
First losses, it really, really does. But after a period of time, you just get used to, right, I'm not going to win every trade. It's nothing personal. As long as I'm sticking to my plan, there's discipline there. I'm good at risking, so I've got good risk management. As long as that is actually in place, like the structure of what you're doing, you're fine. But you can't take their losses for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something, it can get difficult sometimes as a teacher or as someone who's giving that guidance to just allow people to make those mistakes because you have to, like you can just say the words, give the teachings, give the knowledge, back it up with, proof and experience. But sometimes, as you say, you have to let them make those mistakes and but just be there for them and advise them afterwards if necessary as well. And a lot of people don't see that side, that side, the side of actually being a proper mentor and teacher. And it's unfortunate. Sometimes they just see, this person just, they look good. They want to look good, but they don't understand that. This is where it kind of gets to for yourself actually is, when you started Falcon, it was actually very small. I didn't realize it was a very natural, slow progression. Well, I don't want to say slow because I think it was probably quite quick to be honest. But I actually came across you when you had already built a bit of a following and the name was already a household name and had a decent student base as well. But you actually started with, I think it was like 25 people.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember I did a deep dive of your Insta and I came across it. It was like 25 people and then I think it was 50 after that. Like, what was that like then, making that step into, because I remember you mentioned before the podcast that you were helping people anyway. You were getting on calls and sort of cultivating a community and a brotherhood, if you will. So how did that naturally progress?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've always had this within me, and I think it comes from culture, comes from family, upbringing I've had, and things I've seen. You always help people. You don't leave anyone behind. It's kind of military in that sense. You don't leave anyone behind. So I brought that to the table. Like I know I'm one of the genuine ones that genuinely like to see people win.
Yeah.
It's easy to say that, but I'm 6 years in of doing it. Like even tonight, I'll go back tonight, it's a Friday night, and I'll be doing 10 hours, if not more, of analysis to prepare the webinar for the week ahead to all different levels, to all different personality types. I don't just go, here you go, here's my analysis. This is 6 years later. You don't do that unless that you care with discipline. So I've always been that person that, listen, if I'm with my friends and we're sitting in a coffee shop, and this is going back years, and someone would just start feeling sorry for themselves, it would be me stepping in, being, cut that shit out. This is not the right mindset. let me help you. Like, what are you going through? And I would be like, oh, what issue are you going through? And they'll say, I was like, right, so what's the solution then? And this is before I knew anything about mindset, really, but it was instinct. I would do it instinctively. So for me, then, having these people on board, I took that very personally, that anyone coming into my ecosystem, I need to welcome them. So I'd welcome calls of every single person that came through, up until it just got unsustainable at some point. But then I built a team and we still done the same thing, right? So I was getting to know their personal stories. Like, right, why do you want to do it again? If those that have been with me for all of the years, they'll know, why are you doing this? I want to know why. What's your goals? I would instill the beliefs that have made me successful to help them out as well. So it was a very natural thing. But even before then, I knew traders that traded like different styles. They would trade Elliott Wave. They would trade a few different things. And then again, we would jump on, we would talk about trading, and I would help them out because I was just a little bit further advanced. I would just give them little tips here and there. And then before you know it, I had people that I knew from friends that say, oh, could you help me in person? And it wasn't charged for. It was just, I'd meet up in the office. I was full-time at this point. So this was after, I'd scaled up a little bit. They would then just come and meet me. I would be like, oh, this is what you can do. This is how you can get started. And I realized I am a natural teacher. Right. I've improved my teaching over time, but I just like helping people. I like the idea of that brotherhood, as you said, because I think from family, if you trace it back, someone stepped in for me, right? Even though there was a lot of pressure and people could say, oh, it was easy for you. It wasn't easy. There was loads of pressure. However, someone still stepped in for me. And I like to now step in for other people because I know what it's like to be vulnerable and think, why would someone care? Someone in my position, it's like easy for me to say that, oh, you charge for a service. They don't actually understand what goes into business. They don't understand tax, corporation tax, VAT, and infrastructure and everything that goes with it. But to be a positive force for the world and a positive force for this space of, listen, if you apply yourself, I mean, there's so many things that you would say is not a good ROI that I will do that is not charged for. So for example, someone sends me a message, I might go back and forth on voice notes, 25 voice notes later. I don't book them in for a coaching call and then invoice them. I do loads of things like that. It's because I actually care about the individuals that are in and that want to do well. So it was an interesting time to have people resonate with that. And I realized what was happening is this: people lacked role models and they lacked guidance. And what I did in that moment is I stepped in, put my arm over their shoulder and made them believe it was possible. And they'd done it. That's the thing, they'd done it. And all they needed was the belief. They already had it within them. They knew how to trade to a certain extent. They didn't have the belief. And I instilled that in them. And of course, our simplistic way of looking at the markets was kind of new at the time, because I think Falcon was the first one that really had the clean charts. So people were used to so much clutter, and I was not discrediting it in a way that, listen, there's loads of ways to trade, but this way for me is just very, very simple. And if you resonate with it, feel free to join. And that's literally how it organically grew. And we built an ethos from very early on.
Definitely. And I actually agree with you, because it was the same thing. At the time when you had actually started, because I came across you maybe 1 year, maybe a year and a half into your journey, I think, around that sort of time. Into your journey as Falcon. So when you started was probably 6 months into when I became a trader. So it just goes to show how long you've been doing it. You got the longevity there. And if anything, just growing from strength to strength. But yeah, like back when I started, everything that was available was sort of more clutter, less mechanical, less just kind of random confluences, whatever they were. And that isn't probability-based trading, because there's nothing specific. It's just kind of out there. And yeah, I have to agree, like when you were probably the first set of people, if not the first, to have clear, clean charts and a mechanical process with that. And yeah, no, definitely. I completely agree with you, what you said there in terms of helping people, actually understanding the person you're helping, understanding who they are, what they've gone through, where they're wanting to go, what is their why, and I think in teaching, especially when it gets to a bigger level, it does get difficult, but still trying to instill with the ones who are interacting with you, because we have to remember a lot of people join and they like to just be on the fly on the wall,
of course,
and therefore they're not putting themselves out there to receive that help or that attention, which is fine. If that's their choice, no problem. But for the ones who do interact, even to this day, I bet you still will interact with them and know about them, you know?
Oh yeah, I know my community.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I know. When I say I know them, I know them.
100%.
I know what football team they support.
There you go, yeah.
You know, I'm involved because I've built friendships.
Yeah.
I've built actual connections with these people. It's difficult changing someone's life. They go through all kinds of things. I'm not the finished article. I'm teachable. There's still things I need to learn.
Yeah.
It's just that I've figured a lot of things out of my life, and I'm very grateful I had the right people in my circle that taught me how to think, because that's what it is. It's really, if you can think in the right way. Most people, they've got too much clutter in their mind. I'll give a good little hack, and this could be helpful for anyone. Do it every single day. Right, so I built this psychology program. You probably would have seen Rewired.
I have.
Right, so hear me talk about it from time to time. There's a key thing in there, a little gem, which is the window of opportunity. Now, when you wake up in the morning, that first 15 minutes of when you're awake, you're still in this kind of alpha, dreamy state. It's when you're most impressionable. It's when your subconscious mind is most penetrable. So therefore, that must be the most important time. And I mean, I still do this even when I got up this morning. As soon as I got up, first 3 seconds, I thought, I'm going to smash this podcast today. I'm looking forward to meeting Riz for the first. You know, these things that it's programming your mind to not let the negative thoughts come in. It doesn't matter how successful you become, you will still think about when you get up. If you just observe it, the first 15 minutes you'll think about, got this to do today. Oh, the alarm clock goes off and you feel stressed. I've got to go to work. You're thinking about paying this bill that might be outstanding. Things will just come because that's how we're wired.
Yeah.
We're not too far away from that animalistic mind that we still have. You know, if there was 11 windows and 10 of them were shut and one were open, what would you focus on?
Yeah.
You'd be like, windows open, because you're programmed to look for error. And it's the same thing. So what I created was this window of opportunity that if you can control the first 15 minutes of when you rise, you will influence your day massively. And a lot of people's anxiety and emotions, why they're on the charts, it comes from that. If you just observe how they get up in the morning, if you took 2 traders and one thinks about their problems, that will get exacerbated throughout the whole day. Versus someone that's got a calm, composed mind. They will look at the same charts, but they will feel different.
Definitely.
And emotionally, they'll be more in tune.
I think that's very powerful. Very, very powerful. Because if you reflect on what majority of people probably do to this day, they're not even allowing themselves a chance to even think about their problems, most likely. What they're doing nowadays is grabbing that phone, getting on socials, and then instantly comparing themselves to other people. You know, probably they pick up their phone. If we're looking at a trader, they probably picked up their phone, saw someone who's just made 20K, 30K or whatever, and now they're going to go jump on the charts with that mindset of, he's done it, I need to do this, and then bang, the whole day is shifted, and normally it will result in a negative trade, which then just creates negativity for the rest of the day. It's very, very powerful, and I'm sure, no doubt, a lot of people will reflect on that, and hopefully start to implement and make changes, because that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? Like, when you are teaching and you're trying to help people, because that's what I love about what you've done, actually, is the innovation. Constant innovation, not to the strategy necessarily, because there are obviously going to be little tweaks or changes that you come across, especially over 6 years and beyond. But the reality that is creating new things to shape people, you know, creating new ways to tap into, like you say, different personalities. This is what a lot of people don't understand, is that when you are teaching people, you're not teaching one personality.
Exactly.
You know, you're not teaching one person. People take things in different ways. People have different perceptions, and the responsibility to try and cater to all different ways, to try and, you know, it might be like I don't know, let's say an ascending channel, right? For someone hearing this, they might think that's so simple, you know. But at the end of the day, for one person, it might be simple to understand in one way you're describing it, but then you have to learn how to describe it in 5-6 different ways.
Exactly.
And that's difficult. That's not an easy thing to do. But as you say, as a natural teacher or someone who's developed their skills as a teacher, they'll understand that. They'll understand that I have to develop different, it's the same thing, but just different ways of explaining and showing and describing this so that it can be learned by the masses, learned by different personality types. And, you know, such as Rewire, I know you've got other things that are in a similar way where you've developed over time to just maximize how you can get through to people. And I think it's a very commendable thing, because a lot of people, they just create something and that's it. They'll never change it. They'll never touch it, right? And maybe years go by before they think, okay, you know, now it's a little bit outdated, and they'll just renew the face of it.
Of course.
But not actually the value within, you know? And that's definitely something I've always seen you constantly improving. And not only that, I know you have like key members of the team who are doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
So what's it like to because definitely observing Falcon is an actual community. Like literally, if there was like the metaverse, for example, and you guys had your own sort of VR land, it would be full. It would be full, and everyone would be in there, and it would be like almost a whole city of people just getting after it with the same mindset and helping each other and growing. And your team members definitely sort of show those same traits. And I would imagine that they're people who've been with you a long time and people that you probably worked with closely over a long period of time as well. So what can you say in regards to sort of cultivating mindsets?
So it is cultivated, which is the key part there, is that you have to have a philosophy. You have to, and I learned this from Ray Dalio, right? You have to have principles. And when you have those principles, you naturally attract the people that also resonate with them, right? And sometimes you'll have people come and go. It is what it is. It's the industry that we're in, especially this industry.
Yeah.
And it's not always negative. There's not always conflict.
Yeah.
But I've had incredible people in the team that are no longer here anymore, like really, really valuable for what they've done. But you naturally gravitate towards people that really understand the true mission as to where we're going. So, of course, I have incredible coaches, Abdu and Ibi, if you know Ibi a little bit more personally, but they're incredible human beings. They go above and beyond. It's the same ethos, right? And I know that we all have each other's backs. We're all there for each other consistently. We all care about the students. We're all going above and beyond for the students. Like, this is what we want to do because we know it's difficult to change people's lives. You can't just give someone strategy. You have to sometimes life coach them. The amount of people that I've talked out of depression, right, that have gone through some really, really traumatic, they might have split up with their girlfriend and they're on a funded account. You know how dangerous that is of the emotion. Like, there's so many circumstances. You can't just, people think you join Falcon, you get analysis. It doesn't even scratch the surface for what you get. I pour my life into it, and so do the coaches. So I'm so grateful, and that's just what you see on the front end. The back end team is phenomenal because they're committed to the bigger mission and the picture because they know where we're heading. They're not just rocking up to just do their part. Like, they're very, very fully involved. And when it comes to things like the fund, we have my childhood friend Ibrahim. So he's been with me from day one, and he started the organic business with me. So when I was 15, so we've again, so I've got trusted people in my circle, and I've always taken that very, very seriously. And the amount of things that the team do in the background that no one would see that helps the community in the long run, that links together. It's why we built our fund in the first place.
Definitely,
because we wanted to make sure, right, we see the statistics, and I understand why they are. You can't expect FTMO or 5%ers or all these ones to go and handhold everyone. They pay out to you. They've done the model. If you prove you're competent, you're going to get paid. So it's there for you. It's not their responsibility, right? So I actually have nothing wrong with them. It's just I know that when you're more personable and you're there for them and you actually do the things that you do, which is what we do with our funding program, you get better results. You get it out of them. I think we've hit really great milestones, which is I think 3 to 4 times the industry standard now of people passing in our fund and keeping those accounts. Even after a withdrawal, they're keeping those accounts. So I'm kind of pushing on that as much as possible. Now I understand at a mass scale that becomes harder and harder to have such a large percentage, but there is a reason, and the reason is that all those people, they don't have low self-esteem, right? So I've been studying this recently because we interview a lot of our students, and this is kind of fascinating that anyone can take on board no matter how you trade. The direct correlation between the ones that win and don't, the winners all have high self-esteem. I know it might seem obvious to some people, but some people it's not. And they visualize so intensely beforehand. That's the key clue. So if you actually look at the record of them getting up to where they were, they didn't just become the successful trader, pass on the fund, hit 100K, and then start to feel confident. They fully believed in every ounce in their body that they was already that trader, which is self-image, right? So they programmed the right image, which we go through all these steps, that they programmed the right image, that they were walking, talking, behaving, thinking, feeling, structurally, organization, professionals of feeling like they're a successful trader. So when it came to them passing, it wasn't this strange feeling of, oh, now I've done it. It was, this happened 6 months ago in my mind, and now I'm just collecting this at a later stage. So it's so fascinating. Anyone out there, trader, you have to correct the image, and the image that you have right now might not be your fault. You know how you grew up there. You didn't choose to grow up in the area as a 5-year-old. That just happened. But if you're an adult, you have now the responsibility to assess. The way I think right now, is it healthy? Or is it not?
Yeah, no, definitely. And the interesting thing that you touched on there is in terms of the self-esteem, like it may seem obvious, but I can, sort of back up that I've spoken to so many traders over the years where they don't believe in themselves. So, if you fundamentally don't believe in yourself already, how are you going to achieve the goal that you may have?
Exactly.
How do you expect to be, especially in trading, just generally in life, of course, but especially in trading when you have particular, targets in mind or milestones in mind that require immense self-belief, not even just normal self-belief, immense self-belief, and clarity, as you say, like visualization. And, a lot of people, they kind of shrug off visualization and affirmations and being clear as that, the wishy-washy.
They think it's airy-fairy, basically.
Yeah. And there's a degree of it in terms of it's always without action. If you just do like visualization and affirmations and think about your goal or a vision board, you can do all those things, but if you have no action, like conviction, and as you say, that relentless behavior, that mindset, of course, then it is wishy-washy but the truth is it's not, because you haven't done it correctly. That the major aspect is that taking action behind it. You can write all the things and everything, but if you're not going to take the action, which is, again, it comes down to you. It's not anyone else. No one else is meant to do those actions for you or to be there to push you, wake you up in the morning and remind you.
Get out of bed.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you could have someone who just comes along and pokes you? Well, essentially, that's what us as mentors essentially have to do, is remind people. And I can't tell you, the amount of times I've had people where you've reminded them or they've decided. You can feel the difference. The tone in voice has changed. The relentlessness is there, and then you have to keep them on it to a certain degree. Stoke that fire, keep the flame alive. But I've also seen people where you've done that, so you've done your job, and then people kind of just they waver off. And
I think for yourself though, that feeling of when you have helped someone and that you've seen it work and they've actually applied the things that you've given them, even when people don't do it, you've still got that desire of that. Listen, some people are going to follow it, some people are not, and that still keeps you going. That the right people will listen to the right advice.
That's it.
And I'm sure you've experienced this feeling when you see someone and their life has changed because of what you've given them. Honestly, that's the biggest blessing.
That was it. I had a feedback once, right? One of my students messaged me once, and that was it. That was the game changer for me, because I always had these moments where I felt like, as long as it's helping, whoever it is helping, that's all that matters, right? And but I always had these moments where it's like, but some people are coming and they're on it for like a month, 2 months, and then they just fade away. But I've not changed anything while these other people have done it. And I always question, like, am I good enough, or have I maybe not done something right? Do I need to do something better? But then there's one feedback changed it all, because he said to me, like, there's someone out there in the world today who his whole life is possible because of your teachings. And then that's when I realized, like, I just need to do what I'm doing. I can't focus on the people who don't want to do it, the people who want to slow down, and people who want to take a different path or stop. I just have to focus on those who are relentless, who are about the path, who are willing to do what it takes. And as we said, people have to learn from experience. So the ones who end up doing it are the ones who will then experience what you've been teaching and decide to continue, decide to learn from it, pivot, change, while the ones who won't will be the ones who take those experiences and then just stop, or they change, in terms of the change they make is, this doesn't work, I need to go there. Or this guy on socials looks much better, let me go try him out. Or this community has just popped up and everyone's talking about it. All the new hype is over here, let me go there. And it's just an interesting mindset, because until people really just get fixated, and really, really get specific, and as you say, just it's the best word for it, relentless. Just be relentless on the same mission. And if you understand the industry, it's all about probabilities, right? So if you're constantly jumping to this person, that person, this community, this style, you're never giving yourself a chance to actually get consistent in the first place.
They have what I call Holy Grail syndrome.
Yes.
Which is they believe one exists, which is the false thing that they need to get rid of straight away. Because if you believe that, it's a dangerous mind to be in, because what you'll do is that you'll give up at the moment that you should have pushed through. Because I like to look at it like this. It's really simple. Let's say we was to take the most basic way of trading ever, just call it support and resistance. It's what we all learn straight away.
Yeah.
There are loads of ways to trade the markets. And you could take someone who is, let's say, a seasoned Elliott wave trader, for example, because Elliott wave can become more complex on how you count the waves, and it can be over the top at times, right? However, If you take that trader, they're probably far more competent in terms of knowledge as to how the market's moving versus someone who just understands support and resistance. I'm not talking EMAs, fibs, none of that. Just support, like it rejected here, it was support here.
Yeah.
If that person is competent mentally, knows his why, great mindset, high self-esteem, not low self-esteem, good inner circle, disciplined, organized, structured, you name it, they'll make more money than the Elliott wave trader.
Yeah.
Just from they might have a lack of knowledge, and sometimes they'll get caught out from not understanding things. However, they won't revenge trade. They won't deviate from their plan because they're disciplined. So they have all of the traits to become the successful trader. And the reason why that order is important is because someone with a lack of knowledge compared to that person, how is it that they can make more money than the person who has all that knowledge? So the order of importance is not knowledge then, is it? It's the internal work. It's, are you the person? So I always find it interesting. I'm sure you've had it as well when people, they'll come to the way that you trade and be like, oh, Riz, this doesn't work. When no, you don't work. Other people with the same resources that you have are making money. Explain that one. It's like the tennis racket theory. It's like, this tennis racket doesn't work. Well, why can Nadal pick it up and just start acing people? It's the same resource. You are not competent yet, and that's okay. But to be in a victim blame mindset doesn't help you.
Definitely.
It's not going to affect you anyway, because you're going to continue to help people. You're going to continue to carry on moving forward. It's just unfortunate this is the mindset we're in. It's because we believe that there is a holy grail out there. And the closest thing to a holy grail is actually just figuring yourself out.
Well, the holy grail is within, right? You know, it's right here. But it's only if you see it. You know, and a lot of people have just got these blinders on, and it comes down to a lot of distraction. You know, what you decide to consume. So rather than people consuming, you know, wholesome content, whether that's, you know, an actual within your own community or even just wholesome content that is available, which talks about the mind, that's no problem. But instead, people decide to consume, you know, whatever's being marketed and pushed in front of their eyes. And, you know, as we were talking about, like, you know, when you started, it was a lot less. You know, and we talked about this outside. Like, even when I started, it was a lot less. You know, there was way less options, you know, way less, you know, communities and way less being promoted online. In particular, all of it, YouTube, Instagram, all of these things. Like, there was way less. And over the last 3 years, it's increased dramatically year on year. Yeah, this year is probably the most, you know, educated communities.
Where do you think it's going over the next couple of years?
I have no idea, honestly. Like, I can just see it doubling, tripling every single year until... Well, it's like a bubble, right? It's just eventually it's going to have to slow down or collapse.
I think it's this thirst for knowledge, because with more knowledge, there comes certainty. But in trading, that's not the case, because there's the most knowledgeable people out there. They can't trade. Right? It's because they've not figured themselves out. In some industries, I understand why people look for that, because that's the way that we're wired. If you wanted someone to perform heart surgery, I'm sure you'd want someone who's knowledgeable, right? Because that's when it actually matters. It's very, very important. But when it comes to trading, that's not the case. It's like when I see these people reading books, they're reading book after book after book. I'm like, what is chapter 7 on this book? They haven't got a clue. They don't know what chapter it is. So they've just tick box exercise. Book. This is what I always say to my students and anyone I come into contact with. You're reading a book, read the book until you know the book like the back of your hand. And I learned that from my dad. Right, without even realizing, he only read one book, The Master Key, one book, and he still only reads one book, even now, right? And he's not in a good way, right? And he still only reads one book. And I learned that unconsciously, that until you know it like the back of your hand, if someone calls you up in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., and you answer the phone, and they're like, oh, what's your name? You know it's Riz, right? Because it's like the back of your hand. It's within you, is what I'm saying. And I think if more people would adopt that with the knowledge they already have, they would realize sometimes it's right under your nose. The very thing that you're looking for, it's there. You just don't know it enough. And what we delude ourselves into is that when we know something 70%, we think we know it 100%. Because you know it to a high degree. That's why I'm sure you get people say to you, Riz, my analysis, it feels really great. You know, I'm following everything that you're doing. When you explain it, I understand it. You might understand it, you just can't execute it. So just because you know it doesn't mean that you know it. So I would say to any trader, just give it a little bit more time. I actually bumped into a student in London, Victoria, as I came in here today. And he was telling me that one of our funded traders, I hadn't caught up with him just for a little bit. And he said, I'm up 6.5%. Right, everything's going well because he went through a bit of a bad patch. And he said, and his very advice that I gave him, he was like, I don't know what it is. I just woke up one day, like recently, and it just clicked. I was like, I bet you didn't have any extra knowledge. He was like, no extra knowledge. That's exactly. Sometimes you just have to faith and trust in the things that you're doing repeatedly every single day. some days you do just wake up as a trader. I'm sure you've experienced it. I've many a times where I just look at the charts and for whatever reason, I feel in sync.
Yeah.
I feel in the flow and I just get it.
Yeah.
And whatever I didn't understand before, I now understand.
Yeah.
No one told me anything new. I didn't do anything different. I just rocked up at the charts. And because I'd done it for so many hours enough,
Yeah.
I get it now. And that's how the subconscious is so powerful.
100%. Yeah, I've definitely experienced similar where, I've got on the chart, I'm doing the same thing. And it's just not like clicking the same as I thought, and that's where the thoughts come in of maybe I need to go research this or look into this or change this. But just by, as you say, sticking through it, and putting in the time still to make sure, am I doing the right steps? Because sometimes you can accidentally, take a trade or be slightly off edge, just through, because there's many layers to obviously the charts, right? And there's many layers to trading as a whole. So therefore, it's natural as a human to have a human error, just like in probabilities, human error is a real thing. But the problem is where we don't find that error, actually assess that error. Was it an error? Was it actually with the plan? And but instead, what a lot of people do is rather than assessing the errors that are being made or potentially being made, they will jump ship entirely and just take something that's been working, right? And it's been working well and given clarity. And just because there was a slight bit of unclarity for a moment, it could, and that moment might be a week, might be 2 weeks, right? It could even be a month. But that's it. They're jumping ship. They're changing everything.
Do you know what it is? It's just procrastination in disguise. It's the back testers. Love the back testers. Yeah. They love it. Unfortunately, you can't withdraw anything for those results.
Yeah.
However, they fantasize over it so much.
Yeah.
I get it. Right. I actually genuinely feel bad for them because I understand why they do it. Yeah. Because you're avoiding being in the ring.
Yeah.
You're going back out the ring to do pad work, and really is what you need is more fights. You need more experience in the ring. That's how you're going to get tougher. And what they do is like, no, I need to go back. I need to go learn more. And if I learn more, then I'll come back more. No, you won't. You'll be the same individual that you was because you're still waking up in that first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You're talking shit to yourself all day long. Negative affirmations. You don't feel any much of yourself. You got a poor self-image. You got a bad relationship with money. You indulge into self-sabotage. You have no discipline. You are a walking, talking disaster. And someone could give you, if there was the best number one strategy, they could give it to you on a plate and say, here you go. You still wouldn't perform.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter then, does it? All that matters is that, are you improving yourself? And you shouldn't compare yourself. Comparison is the thief of joy, as they say, but you should not compare yourself to anyone because, and one of our funded traders recently, and he said the comment, which is really important, even after he failed a couple of funded assessments and then he got through, he's one of our portfolio asset managers, and he said that I don't look here and think, because he had a goal to do it 6 months prior, he doesn't look at it and get upset that wasn't achieved. All he cares about is that he's now done it.
Yeah.
He doesn't look back and get annoyed and go, but I said I was going to do it 6 months before and it didn't happen. He's just like, I am now that. You don't care. And that's the beautiful thing about trading. No matter how long it takes, once you've got it, you got it. You don't look back and go, yeah, but it took me 4 years. All you care about is I'm now competent. I'm living the life of my dreams. I can do whatever I want when I want with whoever I want. And that is all that matters. And that's got to be front of mind.
Definitely. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I've had people over the time where they've, they're new traders, right? Well, to them, they're not new. That's the thing. They say, I've been trading a year, Riz. I haven't done it yet. And I say to them, look, I traded 3.5 years before anything began to click and go into, and it didn't have to take that long. I've seen people where in 9 months they've done it. Yep. And that's where it kind of reverts back to exactly what you're saying. It's that internal work. If someone comes to trading and they've already done some internal work, for whatever reason, just personally, in another area of life, whatever it may be, they actually perform a lot better faster.
Do a lot better, yeah.
There's one trader, absolutely incredible. He's not a student of mine. I've just come across him, absolutely incredible trader. 9 months. 9 months because he took the internal work he did for different endeavor that he performed in and just applied it to trading. 9 months. And he's an absolute killer, right? But because of that, and yet people will gravitate around him, of course, and naturally so, and they should. But they won't listen to what he's actually saying in terms of they want to know what's the secret.
Yeah,
what's
I think he's got a secret sauce.
Yeah.
A little technical tweak that they need to know.
And yet he will sit there and talk about mindset, right? And he will talk about the internal work purely. Nothing. You won't even mention anything technical or risk management or anything like that. Literally mental. And there will be those who will listen and understand what he's talking about. And same with here. Like today, there'll be people who will be listening to what you're saying and literally the keys and the blueprint that's been laid out. And there will be those who take action. And amazing. But there will always be those who don't. Right. And they'll still be thinking, he didn't really talk about anything technical. He didn't really, say anything secret. you know, I've heard about this stuff before, but they won't be taking it in, you know, they're not ready though. That's the thing.
I can understand and appreciate from people's perspective what I talk about and what I explain isn't always what they want to hear, but I'm not here to tell them what they want to hear. Yeah. I'm telling them what works. And if they would work on like the 15 minutes thing, I'm telling you, anyone listening, do it for 7 days. DM me and tell me your life's not improved. Your life will improve. You will feel different about yourself, and it will compound and it'll be infectious. And then you'll notice the difference even more. So when you don't do it, you'll wake up and be like, I'm actually really negative without even really, your self-talk is atrocious. And you wonder why you're projecting this negative energy in the world and things are not working out for you. And you think it's strategy based. Yeah. You're a walking, talking disaster. You got to take yourself seriously. These things are important. Taking care of your appearance, taking care of just how you talk to others. How do you greet people? All of these things that they're not really taught in school. We're not really taught around other people. And I think that's why I love helping people, because I know I can tap into those parts, help them with even simple things like this, which you might find crazy. Wardrobe. Just cleaning up your wardrobe. Environment. Desk. How many people waste time on what clothes they're going to wear that day? How many people waste time on what they're going to eat that day? If you look at your life as like an energy gauge, is the way I like to look at it. Say you have 100% energy all day. How much does thinking about making food take? How much does picking out what you want to wear take? Yeah. Imagine it actually took 40% of your energy. You know, when you're really thinking about, should I wear this? I'm not so sure. That's in the wash. You're just unorganized. You're not prepared. And then 40% of your energy has been taken on mundane things that don't actually matter. They won't actually improve your life. That could have been saved for, let's say that same person goes and goes to work, comes back home, 90% of their bandwidth and energy is gone, but they got to do a 4-hour backtesting session. What are they going to consume out of that exactly? Exactly. Nothing. So it's all about being consciously aware of the energy that you use. So I try to simplify it as much as possible. Simplify my life. I'm so much happier for it, honestly.
Best way, honestly. Like a lot of people do overcomplicate so much, and I've been guilty of it in the past. And same thing. Like as soon as I became more simple, just more organized, and it's the finer details. That's the thing. Like it's just the little finer details that we don't think about. We don't consciously think about. Like you said, just the way you interact with people, the way you think first thing in the morning. And it's funny you mentioned that, because when I was just reflecting on it right now, when I had that change, that shift in mindset, when I was going through depression, and then I decided, hey, I don't want to feel this way no more. It was when I woke up. Literally, I woke up that morning and said, that was the thing. I woke up that morning and said, I don't want to feel this way no more. Bang. From that day on, it was just gone. And it's very interesting.
It's like identity, isn't it? It's like, you know, the people that want to quit smoking, and you ask the two people and say, right, here's a cigarette, and someone says, no, I'm trying to quit smoking, and then someone says, I'm no longer a smoker. Yeah, it's two different people. One has changed their identity, that no, I'm not someone who smokes, and someone is, I'm trying to quit. Like if you try, it's like the energy of failure already.
Leaving the door half open.
You don't try to open the window. You just open the window. Yeah. And it's the same thing in life. And people, they get that confused. You just do. So when you decide, I'm going to be a successful trader, what's the thought pattern after that? Right. So I need to figure out what are the traits of all, because success leaves clues. There must be, because most people, and I used to think this as well, I've been guilty of this, where we think our problems are unique. We think our self-sabotage, our ego, our greed and FOMO, and the list goes on, revenge trading. We think it's this unique special problem because our ego is too involved in all of it. Yeah. When the reality is there is a category of problems that most traders will go through. And if you fix most of those things and you do the inner work, once you're technically competent, success will happen. But you can't avoid it. We look at it like the pyramid, right? If you have your edge, right, so you have your trading system, right, in the bottom left. Yeah. On the top, you've got your actual trading plan, and in the bottom right, you've got your psychology. They all must exist with each other, otherwise you won't get sustainability. Now, the key part here is that if you've got a trading plan and you actually have an edge, you can go unpunished because you can make money without the psychology. Yeah. And I think that's why people don't focus on it. They know psychology is a big part, but because you can make money technically without it, because you can fluke a couple of positions, you can get an FTMO, you can even bank 20K. You tell that someone, no, you need to work on your mindset. They're like, I've got 20K. Shut up. I don't need to listen to you. You do, because you're going to lose that just like a lottery winner. Yeah. You know, it's the same type of mindset. So it's just so fascinating, which is why I love this industry, because I'm sure for yourself as well, you have to be sharp to perform. Yeah. It's not like someone could have a fairly competent job. They might even earn 100K. They might earn 6 figures, for example. You could probably turn up here and there and have some days off in which that you weren't your sharpest self. You can't do that in trading. And as you scale up more, you definitely can't do that. You can't just wake up that morning, be really negative, then go on the charts, start risking 5, 10K a position with your eyes half closed and not looking great. You can't, because the market will finish you and it will humble you. And then before you know it, you've taken a loss, you've just lost 10K. And then you try and make it back, you do another 10K, then you might risk some more. Before you know it, you just lost 50 grand just because you didn't monitor how you woke up. It's crazy to me how the mental performance is so demanding, but once you make a habit of it, it becomes effortless.
That's it, yeah, because it becomes you. You're in essence, it becomes something you focus on to develop, right, and build, but then it then becomes just you. It just becomes your everyday life, you know, and it's not something you have to put effort into. It can waver in terms of if something else comes along. Like you mentioned, a very common one actually is where people are, you know, they're working very hard and then a breakup happens. It's a very, very common one. I hear it a lot. I get sent that message a lot.
A lot of your students have gone through that type of
and they go through that, and then it impacts them. You know, some do the right thing. They step away, allow themselves to bring back to balance and work on themselves to overcome that. But many, unfortunately, will continue. And if anything, they try to sort of tunnel vision into trading to avoid the pain and suffering they're feeling on this side. And it never works. It's that not the lottery, sorry, it's the spiral, right? That then just continues. But it's like you said, in terms of the lottery winner, it's like people can get rich overnight. They can, even those people who may go through a horrible experience of, you know, and get compensated because of it, you know, an accident of some kind, and they get a big payout. They always end up with zero again at the end, you know, very quickly,
sometimes worse.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, definitely sometimes worse, because then they've signed up to things, you know, they might afford for that moment because they haven't set things up right, it's gone. And it's always down to because they haven't built that strong foundation. And in trading, it is the psychology, it is the mindset.
I had this trader, right, that reached out to me. This is about 3 years ago. I always remember it. He reached out to me and said, Mark, I need your help. I looked at his charts. I thought it was a Falcon trader, right? And he was just like, I'm in a bad way. He goes, I've turned my 10K into 170. And it was before all the laws came in and leverage, etc. And then he had turned that into it, risked a lot of money. It was on dollar yen, made loads of money, and he's got this big account. And from seeing the message, and it was like, I hadn't seen the message for like 3 days. There were loads of in my inbox.
Yeah.
When I'd finally replied to him, it'd already been down, like lost like another 50, 60K. So all of the money, so I jumped on with him, so vulnerable, as you can imagine, really emotional. By the time I jumped on a call, he was like under 100K. And he lost all of it. Yeah. So if someone can make 10 and turn it into that and still lose it, it just goes to show you that you can't skip the mind work.
You can't.
I know it's attractive to just want to look at technical analysis because you think that if I know more about that, then I'll cross the mindset bridge when it comes to it, because there's no direct ROI. If I say, listen, words have power, you need to be mindful of the words you're choosing to use. Don't joke about yourself, right? Because your subconscious doesn't know the difference, as Bruce Lee always says. These things are so important. Someone will go, all right, yeah, I'll take that on board, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'm not making any money yet, so therefore that can't be important. What's this little indicator, or what's this new strategy? That looks good. I see they banked 20K. And that's all they're going to focus on.
That's it, yeah. That's it. And it's funny you mentioned that, actually, because that's something I've seen and I've spoken about before as well with students is, you know, I've seen people where they joke about taking a loss. You know, I just lost 5K, you know, and they'll do it again. They'll joke. They'll treat these losses like a joke. And I always say to them, like, look, the market's going to keep treating you like a joke because you're not taking it seriously. You know, why are we laughing about losses or break evens or missed trades? Why are you laughing about these things? They're not funny. I know it's equally not good to take it to heart and let it like pull you down and be like, oh, I've just taken a loss. I get that. But we should not go the complete opposite way either, because that is also a very negative thing that we do not take on board. Like, I would never laugh at a loss. Like, I won't like let it hurt me because I understand its probabilities, but I won't laugh about it either, because as soon as I start treating it like a joke, as you say, the subconscious is always listening. It's going to be, trading's a joke.
Exactly.
No problem. You know, it's a very powerful thing. And I think a large part of it is because, unfortunately, what's prominent and sort of the big thing of this industry, and as we said, is constantly growing, is just showing the money, showing the lifestyle. And that's what I've always respected about you, is that you could easily choose to do that if you wanted to, no doubt. But you've always focused purely on what matters, you know, and if anything, doubled down into, as you said, creating Rewired, for example, and, you know, talking about things that are coming along. So like now we're talking about the recession that's incoming, right? And you positioned all of your students well ahead of time, because I think it was, from memory, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months ago that you
yeah.
put together a workshop, and no doubt continuously talk about within your community as well. But is there anything that you can maybe enlighten people on in terms, because you started trading on the last financial crisis,
Exactly.
and here we are now, heading into another one, and now you have, I don't know, hundreds of students, if not thousands,
Definitely.
who are under your wing, and you're guiding them along.
Well, I'm very well informed because I had the privilege of going through it, even though it was difficult. I saw the recovery, so I can see how things go. And there's a big value attached to that experience when you actually experience it. It's one thing going back and back testing it and going, oh, this is how the 2008 crash performed.
Yeah.
But when you're in it and you're seeing people losing their homes,
Yes.
the emotion involved, it's a completely different ballgame. So I kind of took that on board as to, well, the big question is, are we in a recession right now? Is there a recession coming? Right. I'm not going to be so arrogantly to predict that what if there's a possibility that we don't have one? That's a question some people have not thought about, because the news is always going to push what it wants you to see.
Yes.
However, the telltale signs are usually in the property market. I'm a property investor as well, so I can see it. I can see signs of that already. I think it's probably further away than what we think, and it will probably come out in good news. So we'll probably see another all-time high on something like the S&P before it even happens anyway.
Yeah.
Because these bigger players have got hundreds of millions. You think they're getting out at bad prices? I don't think so. They're very well connected. That is just the reality. And we'll probably get another push. If you look at the DGI, right, we've already recovered in the last monthly candle, 15%. In just 1 month.
Yeah.
It's only another 15% to an all-time high. Suddenly recession, what does that mean then?
Yeah.
So what you're seeing on the news versus what you're seeing on the charts is a different picture. So it's something I've always said, traders trade the market.
Yeah.
So you have to trade what you're seeing online of what you think the pound is doing, and people get all into these politics and try and correlate these things and realize that they're not going to be at the same time anyway.
Yeah.
So all you need to do is just look at the chart. So what I prepared the students for is this. There are things that you could do to prepare for when that happens. Because what happens in recession? Mental health, all-time high, lots of bad things will happen. However, you need to cut your unnecessary spending. So I kind of put it into two things, and anyone can do this, which is your essentials and your non-essentials, which you basically just get a list of things that you look at your bank statements, likely the last 3, and go, what is essential and what is non-essential? Because what you need to double down on is investing in yourself and investing into assets over a longer period of time. Now, take advantage of your advantage. You're a trader. Let's say you're interested in getting involved in crypto. You're not the average person who just knows about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You can look at value points and go, 11K per Bitcoin, probably a good price to buy, or 15 or 20K.
Yeah.
So you don't need to buy at 60K and buy the highs. You don't need to be an amateur. You can wait, position yourself, average it, rather than just averaging in for the sake of it. That's why does dollar cost averaging exist? It's because you don't know an exact price. So rather than you just being a typical person who works in recruitment but knows about cryptocurrency, so they invest every month.
Yeah.
They don't realize that 55K is a terrible area to buy BTC. But you can look at that and go, at 20K, if I cut my coffee spending, because I'm spending $300 a month on Starbucks or Costa Coffee, is that, you've not made it yet, right? So is that actually essential for you? And if it's a non-essential, how much of that over the last year you might have spent? You might have spent 3K in a year on Costa Coffee. And you're saying that you haven't got money to invest into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You do. You just have terrible spending habits. And if you actually track everything and you do a full audit, you'll realize you might actually be £700 a month richer. And what could that £700 a month do for you? Is something about this like mental cleanse of getting rid of these non-essential things. And then you've got to look at time for money. So someone could, this is the hard one. They'll go, well, Netflix is only a tenner, so that's fine. No, how much time are you spending on Netflix? Because then you have to look for time for money.
Yeah.
So you have to look at the biggest expense, and you have to look at where is most of your time going through. So we kind of done this full exercise and audit as to like, how can you get to a place in which that you can become wealthier almost with an instant decision?
Yeah.
And then secondly, if your goal is to become a full-time trader, and it doesn't need to be full-time, but if your goal is to be a competent trader trading with money, then what are your two numbers? Self-sufficiency number and your golden number. So how much do you need to actually buy your freedom?
Yeah.
And most people don't think about that. I'll speak to a trader. I'll say, right, so how much money do you need to make to quit your job? They're like, I don't know. How do you not know? That shows me straight away you're not taking it seriously. So it could be something as little as 1,500 quid. So £1,500 buys your freedom. how close are you to being a successful individual?
That's it.
So what's your golden number? All it is times 2. So your golden number is your self-sufficiency number times 2. So let's say a trader, they've got, I don't know, their 2K a month is their outgoings.
Yeah.
You don't really want to be quitting your job and then be under that amount of pressure. But that's your self-sufficiency number. So if you've built up, I don't know, 6 months to a year of your savings and you want to go full-time, it's the easy way you go full-time. You're like, I've got 6 months to a year covered. You know, my self-sufficiency number is being hit at 2K a month. I can deal with a bit of drawdown because I can cover that. And then your golden number is that times 2. And that's where you can actually live your life, and then you can use that money to invest.
Yep.
So we kind of went through that whole process, which was super fascinating to see. Just instantly people would look at their finances and go, I'm £1,000 a month up already, just by getting stuff they don't need, just by getting rid of those things, the non-essential things. And then suddenly they can invest £1,000 a month into some stocks or something they're interested in. And what it does is it gives you this level of, you almost feel liberated and empowered at the same time, that you've not earned any more money. It's right there. It's right under your nose. And now you have a game plan, a strategy, you know what you need to do. And we're essentially preparing for all of that and so much more. One of the things I'm setting up is the property fund, which is, again, when I mentioned about traders that win, they visualize their why, they're attached to these things.
Yeah.
You need to know why you're doing what you're doing. And I think this is really true in the trading space, that if you know what you want to do with your money after you've become successful, for some reason you become successful. Yeah. Where if you just want to be a trader to make money, it seems to be pushed always further away.
Yeah.
So I kind of looked at it like this. Let's say, and this was like 3 years ago, I was forecasting and building this infrastructure. I was like, right, so let's say in 3 years from now, we've got hundreds of people trading 6-7 figures. What are they going to do with the money? Because most people just upgrade their lifestyle. Yeah. So what do they do with it? They don't actually know how money works for them. Fortunately enough, I've been involved in all these different various projects. I know how to make money also work for me after the matter.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create a fund in which and it's not obligation, but it's there. If you want to then start to build passive income in commercial real estate, residential real estate, land, things that you can go and see, tangible things. I'm not talking about some random bit of land in Thailand or anything like that. I'm talking about like physical things in the UK you can invest into. And if that's making you 10-15% a year on 200-300k, might be making you 30-40k a year. And then you've suddenly parked 40 grand a year every year, as long as you're involved in the project. How much is that? How much is that valuable for you? That you know that all of your, let's say your outgoings are 30 grand a year, you've got it covered now. So you can alleviate all the pressure. You don't have to work. Your money is making you money, and you're competent at trading. You've got a trading account, and you can grow that. So you start to build an empire. Yeah. And that's what I'm building within Falcon, so people can build their own empires, and then the network effect is just phenomenal. It really is.
Well, no, it's just incredible, and as I said to you outside today, that sets you apart from what this industry is doing. You know, this industry is purely, you know, you can have a community, and everyone can have the good intention as well, like good community and everything, but they don't go beyond that. They don't think beyond that. You know, and it just goes to show the levels that can be made, you know. And as you said, though, it wasn't something that you just thought of and that was it, done. You took action on it, but it took time to build the infrastructure, as you said, because it's a serious matter. It's something that requires a lot of work, no doubt, and a lot of planning. But it does set you apart from what this industry is doing. You know, it's a whole different ballgame, a whole different level. And as you say, it's extremely, extremely powerful, because a lot of people, they don't think beyond trading. They think, I want to make this amount from trading, and that's it. But the reality is, remember that we get into trading for freedom. But even in trading, we're not essentially free, because we still have to turn up. You know, and as you say, like the mental capacity and the mental sort of strength and focus and work is necessary every single day as a trader. You can't have a day where you slip up or take a day off, because that will cost you, and it can cost you dearly. So, you know, essentially your job is still there. But to have something where it takes that edge off completely, and that's the end goal, really. The reality is that in terms of legacy and longevity and your why, it should be to a point where, you know, because at the end of the day, we could lose our health at any moment. Anything can happen out there in the world, right? Something can happen and we can't work. We can't trade anymore. But having, you know, a way where you've made your money work for you, and that's where, you know, kind of two principles that come back to that book, Richest Man in Babylon, right? One being that, you know, the level of your income, if you don't try and control it or do an audit, your expenses will just naturally match it. You know, if you're making £1,000 a month, you'll just naturally spend £1,000 a month. And that's why when you say to people, you need to save, like, I can't save. I'm only making £1,000. But the reality is, even just saving 10%, if you do an audit and live below your means, even to the smallest degree, as you said, like coffee, for example, it's not necessary, right? If people did that, and a lot of people, as you say, they don't even know how much they're spending or where their money's going.
I've got a clue.
They just naturally, so if they end up getting a raise to 1,500, they'll just naturally increase their expenses.
Exactly.
And, again, it takes experience and it takes awareness to be able to just look into this. But then obviously the second point being making your money work for you is so, so important. And it's such a powerful thing because the reality is you don't want to do all this hard work in your life to then, as soon as you're dead, that's it. The tap's gone off and that money just gets slowly diminished, like especially straight away inheritance tax. They'll take a large chunk of it straight away. When really, and this is something that was instilled to me by my mum as well. Same thing, like the egg, the golden egg that keeps on giving to the future generations. And the only way to do that is to invest into things that will continuously pay, regardless of your health, regardless of whether you're even still here, right? It will continuously pay for future generations. And you could set it up in a way where even the future generations, even if you have, unfortunately, get those people who want to take the whole nest egg, they can't. Because you can set it up in a way where it only pays out, but they can never be touched. And
you can put it into trust. You can do all kinds of clever things with it, and that's why it's so important to be thinking beyond that. For example, you get commercial real estate. I'm very big into that now, and I'm pushing a lot of my students to understand more about it. Which is, you can get to a point that you can buy the income. Right. So if you've got, let's say, like a screw fix, for example, you get a unit and you buy that after you've accessed it. You might access it for say 300k, but you've got like £1 million unit, maybe even more. By the time you've actually got the finance and then you've paid the mortgage, your net figure could still be 90k, but you've got a 20-year lease. So you just bought 90 grand a month for 20 years.
Yeah.
How valuable is that to you? Then you realize that in like 6 to 8 months, you can refinance. So you can actually get your original investment out and put it into another one and another one. And before you know it, you've got $1 million every year coming in for 25 years, whether you do anything or not. Then how valuable is that? So that's what I'm trying to I'm not saying everyone has to get into commercial real estate or even property, but you've got to think a bit further beyond just your trading account and then think that as soon as you get money in your trading, then that's it, you're done. It's the quickest way to complacency. There has to be a maintenance period as well. When I see traders finally go full time and then they level up their lifestyle straight away, alarm bells instantly. You almost have to do a year of maintenance. It's almost disrespectful to the market to think that you've cracked it now, it's done.
Yeah.
You have to go back and go, right, still live below my means. You might want to upgrade your stuff a little bit. There is a part in which that you've got to take withdrawals from the market. You have to experience it coming into your bank so you can see that I done that. I remember the first time when I went on to a holiday in Cyprus and I paid for the whole trip from trading.
Yeah.
And that feeling was like all I needed to believe it was possible, fully possible. I was like, well, that's only like 1,600 quid. That could be 16 grand in the future. And that can be more and more. And then that's sometimes all you need is that little taste to believe that this is
rewarding
possible.
all that hard work. Because if you don't reward it, your mindset's going to be like, this is all for nothing. What am I doing this for?
Exactly.
But by rewarding it, you're making it real. You're understanding what is possible. Because the same for me, like when I had my first big withdrawal, the first thing I did was just buy everyone else stuff. Bought my wife something, bought my mum something, bought my sisters something, even my in-laws. I just bought everyone something. Just one thing. I said, whatever you want, you can have it. Because that was me rewarding my mindset, because that was like part of the why, I couldn't do everything I wanted to yet, but I could do a piece to then reinforce this is why I'm doing all this hard work. And a lot of people, they don't do that. Like you said about that person who did like 10k to 170.
Yeah.
They probably didn't take anything to reward them. So even though they might not have done it in the healthy way, they still never made it real.
Exactly.
So then, therefore, when it was lost, what was real was the loss, and that was all they got to experience was the loss being real. But yeah, no, 100%. The fact that you're taking things to a different level, opening the eyes to the traders, because again, a majority of traders, unfortunately, that's all they think about, trading, but they don't think beyond that, right? Where's this money from trading going to go, right? A lot of the time, unfortunately, they still have that mindset where the income from trading is increased. The expenses, they'll just naturally just do the same thing. And it's very unfortunate, but I'm so happy to hear that obviously you're making that change and even not only educating, but also providing infrastructure. It's something that we haven't seen.
It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to build the infrastructure. Logical advice, go invest in property with your profits. Anyone can say that.
Yeah.
can they actually bring the sites to you, bring the deals, coach you through it, help you do it so you know how to set it up? You know, something that might take you 6 months and I can tell you in a sentence.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. This is the person you need to speak to. This is the broker. He'll sort the finance out for you. If you've got 100K, you can access this property. It's simple. I've done it, and I've had the fortune of my brother as well, who's much further along than me in property.
Yeah.
But I've learned from a young age. That's all I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So that even though I'm not, I wouldn't say a property expert, I still know. I know the game.
I was the same. You know, I was very lucky my mum was doing property as I was growing up. And therefore, you know, if I was to speak to someone who doesn't do property at all, they would think I'm an expert. I wouldn't see it that way either.
Of course.
But it's just, again, it's that subconscious is taking all this information without even realizing. And then you get to a point where, you know, you can actually use that information, right? And you can even teach that information. And yet, again, not an expert, but to someone who's not or knows nothing, that is expert advice, you know?
Of course.
With yourself, when it comes to real estate, was it because a lot of people have that goal? You know, I've actually come across people, and I think you probably have as well, where their goal is actually and their passion is actually real estate, and they just come across trading and they think, I can just flip my cash in trading to get a house deposit to then start my actual journey in real estate, which is always a shame because it's not the correct mindset, you know. But in terms of real estate for yourself, was it something you sort of ventured into after the trading, you know, after focusing on the trading, building that skill? Was that something that you then pivoted towards after?
Yeah, so I was in a very, very small way, but I needed the capital involved. So as it scaled up, I was very, very much prioritizing making sure as soon as I've got enough to just dip my toe in the water and be involved. It really started not from a passion to want to be in property. It started from wanting to give back because my brother helped me.
Yeah.
So I just thought, you know, what would be, because we had a little brainwave thinking, right, once I'm at a certain level, we can funnel this money into property, into deals. So as naturally bigger and bigger, it was like, well, this is a great partnership.
Of course. Yeah.
You've helped me out. I want to be more involved in property. Why wouldn't I? I want to learn it. I want to have properties for myself in the future.
Exactly.
So it was just like a natural progression that as soon as we've got enough, we can then move that into it. Now, there was a hard part in which you cannot compare a return from trading to property.
Of course.
Because otherwise you'll go, what's the point? What's the point in that? Because I can make more money with this. It's a slippery slope. Because, as you said, unforeseen things can happen. If you don't protect yourself, you could be in a bad situation. If you're the only person that is in control of that account and you're the person who has to perform, what if something happens to you? Who's going to trade the account for you? There's not going to be any of these bots or algos, right? You've got to trade the account.
Definitely.
You've got to push the buttons. So it was natural progression to me I think from a kind of safeguarding point of view, but also entrepreneurial of, right, let's build multiple sources of income. And I think people get that one wrong as well. They try and build 7 at once. You've got to build master one or two things, and then you can scale into that. So it was a natural progression. It got bigger and bigger and bigger, and now I love it. I love the property game. It's like trading, really, what's the skill? Pushing a few buttons.
Yeah.
It's very simple and it can be tedious. The mindset required, that's the hard part of trading. And then after that, it's like, well, what do you do with the money? Do you just sit there? I love investing.
Yeah.
So if there's deals that come up, not so much now, because this is me sitting on the fence, especially what's happening with the recession, you know, with all of this talk, everything coming to halted prices, you've seen mortgage prices, like you don't want to be getting involved in anything right now.
Definitely.
But what a time it is to understand that, listen, if push comes to shove and things start shorting the market, there will be ridiculously good deals in the next couple of years. And there'll be people that are over leveraged that will just need to get shot of things. They'll need to get rid of land. They'll need to get rid of everything. And if you're someone who's just liquid and you've prioritized having capital at speed is everything. You can just go, well, that's worth, I don't know, say 250, and they're willing to sell it for 220. It's like, I'll give you 200 today. You're now in a position of power. You do that all the time. I said this to my friend the other day, that if you're someone like, people don't understand that when you have money, it becomes easier to make money. So let's say you like watches. I love watches. Just probably wouldn't wear them in London. But if you come into a jeweler's and you want to buy, I don't know, they say, here is a green Daytona, right, with the rare one with the green face, or even any Daytona. Here it is, this is at list price, 30K, etc. Can you have it? Well, if you've got the money available, you could just buy it and just get rid of it tomorrow. And just, I think that particular one is going for like 80K at the moment, right? But the list price is like 30 odd. So just by you having the funds to just go yes, because you was in the right place at the right time. I know it's a rarity to come across something like
especially
that,
now, yeah.
right? But it happens. And if you was dedicated to just going across Europe, you went to Harrods, you went to Paris, you went to Geneva.
Yep.
If you just went across, you'll find someone who just happens to have a rare watch. It could even be the Pepsi Rolex. That's not that much, but you could flip it the next day for like another 10, 15K.
Yep.
So it just goes to show you that with speed and liquidity, you can actually make money. And then suddenly 10 grand a month becomes like, what is 10 grand a month? You know, like your paradigm changes and you realize there's so much more money in the market. And I'm still aspiring to. I'm not the finished article yet. I'm really progressing myself, and I've got some massive, massive goals. I just want to make sure that around me over the next 10, 15, 20 years that it's not just me. You know, how boring would that be? Having an inner circle with you, a community, like-minded people. I don't know what's wrong with this industry as well. It's like if you trade a different strategy, there's almost this unspoken conflict.
Yeah, you can't talk.
I don't care about anyone else's strategy. I'm trading my strategy. If you're doing well, you're doing well. There's we can coexist in the same industry, and that toxicity that is in this space is just, it's distasteful.
It's distasteful and is completely the opposite of what we, essentially as individuals, say who have different strategies, and you have this, distaste for each other and this barrier between you. It's the opposite of what you promote to your traders. Essentially, you're promoting to your traders about the market is probabilities. So why can't you why can't you then get on with this person who has a different edge? That still works with the probabilities, right? It literally confuses the hell out of me, because then you close off the opportunities such as this to be able to just sit down with someone who is doing things differently, but doing things well.
You promote abundant mindset, but yourself is not abundant.
Yeah.
Like you can't lie to yourself. As soon as you messaged me, I was like, yeah, great.
100%.
I don't think you trade different styles, so therefore there's conflict. It means nothing.
Yeah.
It's like we're coming on, having a good conversation, some valuable things. You've been smashing it with the podcast.
No, I appreciate
improving every single time. And I think it's a very positive force for this industry as well, that it's just so self-centered on this is my way or the highway. This is the only way you can make money. And they've got it confused. That energy is not going to be helpful.
It's not. And it closes you off as well to just other opportunities, as you said. Because like, if you're only focused on trading and just having that trading lifestyle that you see, you then close yourself off to other opportunities. Like already, I can imagine people listening to this, hearing you talk about property and real estate funds, and even being about liquid and being able to do watches, for example. Like they'll be thinking, I've never thought about that. Why have I never thought about that? One thing I will say, though, I think is very powerful is that, when you said about what is 10K, and there'll be a lot of people listening thinking, that's what I want. I want to be able to do that, think that way. And what is 10K? But they won't have, that's what they'll fixate on instead of everything, the kind of blueprint you just left in this podcast for them to be able to do it. So if I was to say it to anyone right now, if they heard that moment, they heard that bit where he's talking about large deals or this or that, and that's where your eyes are lighting up, really reflect then straight away on, is your mindset in the correct place? Because you can have all those things. You can live all those, you can live that life. But it comes from all the other bits that you might have just skipped past, or with the chapters that might say, here's the chapter on real estate and big funds, for example. You might have just skipped straight to this chapter, but all of the keys to get to that point are just laid out right there in front of you.
Times when you don't make money. I've been in a property deal for 2 years and gone, well, I saw it as a break even, but it was minus 5K. It's a funny story, right, with my brother. It's because I'm so wide to think about trading. I was like, it's just break even. What do you mean? I was like, it's fine. It's like, it's just like holding a trade for a couple of years, didn't work out. Lucky we didn't lose loads of money. It was just like 5K. But it was the potential of how much money we could have made is what hurts you in that moment. But I'm a big believer in this, and I think this is helpful for any individual in the world. If you're not happy with nothing, you won't be happy with everything. If you look at someone like Khabib, right, in MMA, mountain man, he's like, give me bread, milk, a water, not even a bed, a floor, I'm good. And that's not from a point of scarcity. It's a point from when you can just be happy within yourself and you can be grateful for the most simple things. I've seen war. I've seen everything, right? I know what it's like to see some really bad situations. So that humbled me very early on to go, right, I need to be happy with anything. That's why I'm really grateful for the most simple things that happen in my life every single day. So then when success does come your way, you're just as grateful. You don't indulge into self-sabotage. You don't allow that part to come in because you're present with it.
That's it. And you've done the right steps. You've had the correct mindset. You weren't trying to attain those things and that success to be called successful. You did it for the why. You know, you did it so you could open certain doors and to be able to, especially with yourself. And I think I've always said, like, with trading, it's fulfilling you financially, but it does not fulfill you in any other way, right? And that's why the right people, such as yourself, will teach, because they know the fulfillment of passing this knowledge on that is far outweighs the monetary value of trading that trading provides. Just being able to say, you know, the inner circle just alone, right? And seeing their elevation, even just in mindset, let alone whether they're financially getting better and independent as well, just in terms of mindset, is incredible. And it can be unmatched, you know, in terms of its feeling and in terms of what it does for you. And we'll finish up on one point, which I wanted to ask you. It's a bit random, but I remember years back when I used to observe your page, is you used to talk about having a nice pen.
Yes.
Right. And I thought it would just be something to kind of finish up on is, do you want to share that sort of that concept with, you know, what it is about having the nice pen, right?
It starts from the thought. So I'm glad you observed that. Pen is the most powerful instrument. As I said, if you're going to write your goals down, don't write them on a Post-it note on a scrap bit of paper. Get a nice journal. Doesn't need to be a Mont Blanc journal. I know you've probably seen Mont Blanc flooding on my page. However, just W.H. Smith's, whatever. Just get a nice journal, something you take seriously, and start writing it down. If your words have power, well, then that comes from the thought, comes from the words that you choose to use, the words that you write. And there's something about a powerful instrument of seeing your goals written in your own handwriting. Because when you type it on a Notion or Evernote, it's not the same thing. You know, we've distanced ourselves so much from just normal things. Think about, you know, Henry VIII. Think about old school times, right? You'd get a pen with the ink. You'd write it, and you would seal it, and it would mean something. You'd be intentional with the words that we'd use. And now we just type, autocorrect, Grammarly, you name it. You're not even thinking, you're like a robot. But the reality is, when you can become intentional with the words that you choose to actually write down, you take yourself seriously. Those words have power. They have consciousness. They have actual energy in them. And if you write things in the right way, then it will manifest for you. So I see that instrument as a very powerful thing. And there's something about it. Listen, it doesn't need to be I've got some decent ones, but it doesn't need to be like thousands of pounds. It can just be £20. Just it doesn't have to be with a biro. How can you look at someone as a professional with a big biro, scrap bit of paper, saying, I'm going to be successful. And it's all screwed up. Don't take yourself seriously. It'd be like not presenting yourself. It's the same thing that I see when you take pride of your appearance. You should also do it with your journal and your pen, and watch how your life starts to change.
Definitely. No, I appreciate that, because like I said, it's something I've observed you doing from the moment I came across you, and you've continued to this day. No matter how successful you've been, you've taken the same principles, the same intent, the same mindset. Like you said, you still got big goals now, and I'm sure you're doing the same processes to achieve them. And and it simply comes down to holding yourself to a high standard. If you want to achieve that, you need to hold yourself to that high standard now. And no, I appreciate you sharing. And I appreciate you again, Mark, for coming on today. There's so much value, so much I've learned personally as well. So I thank you for that. I'll have the links to your platforms and everything in the description below. And well, thank you everyone for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And no doubt, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have a future episode in the works, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to have me on. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. It's flown by.
It has.
Seriously. So I've really enjoyed it. Keep doing your thing, and I'm excited to hear what people think.
Thank you.